Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the Town of Amherst Traffic Safety Board meeting. Today is Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. First, I'd like to introduce you to members of the board. I'm Eric Faraz, chairman, and we will go through the board and the town liaisons.
Greg Dion, vice chairman.
Kevin Cantwell, member.
Kristen Goss, member.
Jennifer McNevich, member.
And our liaisons.
My name is Mike Sukala. I'm your town board member, and I'm the liaison to this committee. Captain Charles Person, Safety Department. Tom Boyd, Planning Department.
Chris Schregel, Engineering Department, Traffic Safety Coordinator.
Okay, before we go any further, just need to let you know that in case of an emergency, case of an emergency alarm in the building, the exits are to my left, your right, and then please leave the room and proceed to the front or rear of the building to the exits, and you should not use the elevator if the alarm is sounding. Our first order of business for this evening is to review the minutes from our prior meeting, which we do not have the minutes from the October meeting. However, at our October meeting, we were not able to review the September minutes, so we need to review the minutes from the September 6th, 2023 meeting. With that, I'll open it up to the board. Are there any comments, corrections, or modifications that need to be made?
Yes, I do have one. In the first paragraph, my name is not listed as one of the members who was in attendance, but I was there.
Okay. Any other changes, comments, or notes? None being heard, is there a motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll make it.
Motion by Kevin. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Kristen. Any further comments? None being heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried 6-0 to approve the minutes. For everyone that is here in the room tonight, I think this is the largest crowd that I've ever seen for a traffic safety board meeting, so welcome. We will try to move through this as quickly as possible this evening. So with that, because the crowd is so loud, crowd is so large, we probably have numerous speakers here. Just going to go through a couple things here. Just so everyone that is in the audience knows, this board does not have lawmaking authority. Do not go through the agenda in the order of the agenda. We will go through the agenda in the order that people are signed in this evening. Should the board make a recommendation that requires action, we already addressed that. And in order to address concerns of the room, we do not go through, got that already. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself tonight. As we work through the agenda this evening, we will first provide background information. Once that has concluded, we will open the public comment period. During the public comment period, those that have signed in for the agenda item will be provided 3 minutes to comment. When you come to the podium, right over here, please state your name and address. Please be aware the meeting is being live streamed and recorded. As you discuss your item, be aware that each member of the board has copies of all this correspondence you've already had with the town. That's why we all have these big packets of paper. Therefore, there's no reason to repeat any of the information that you've already provided. Once you hit about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you'll receive a single bell from Greg, indicating that you have about 30 seconds remaining. At 3 minutes, you'll receive a double bell, and we ask that you complete your comments promptly after the double bell. After all the residents in the room have had the opportunity to speak, the public comment period will be closed. The agenda item will then be open for discussion among members of the board to take action. During the discussion, board members will not answer questions from those in the audience as the public comment period has closed. However, if necessary, the board may ask questions of those in the audience should more information or clarity be needed as part of the board's discussion. Therefore, if you have any questions you'd like the board to answer, please ask them during your 3-minute comment period. We will do our best to make note of the questions and answer them, if possible, during our discussion period. I also want to address a few topics that will come up through the public comment period that I'm sure, based on our agenda items tonight, many of you are going to speak to. Just want to point these out to you in advance while you're making your comments so you are aware. This board is required to follow the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, also known as the MUTCD. You will hear us refer to that oftentimes as we're having our discussion up here this evening. The MUTCD is a document issued by the federal government along with a New York State supplement. This document provides uniformity and consistency, allowing road users to know what to expect. This board cannot make recommendations that do not align to the MUTCD. Also, the town of Amherst has a standard speed limit of 30 miles per hour. There are speeds that can be under 30 miles per hour, mainly in posted school zones. Many people that attend these meetings are asking for a lower speed limit, and New York State has passed regulations allowing towns the size of Amherst to reduce speeds to 25 miles per hour. Some towns and villages have done this. There has been no action taken in the town of Amherst to reduce the speed under 30 miles per hour. So you'll see it in the village of Williamsville. You may see it in Clarence, but there has not been action taken by Amherst to drop below 30 miles per hour. So there would be required legal action by the town board in order to make a speed limit under 30 miles per hour. So at this point, this board does not have the ability to reduce the speed limit under 30 miles per hour. Also, stop signs will come up during the meeting tonight. Per the MUTCD, stop signs are traffic control devices. Their purpose is to control traffic at an intersection. Stop signs are not speed control devices. There are warrants in the MUTCD that need to be met for a stop sign to be installed. The board is aware that there are many unwarranted stop signs in the town that were put in place many years ago and before MUTCD guidance was issued. Installation and removal of stop signs requires legal actions. When it comes to stop signs, the only thing harder than installing a stop sign is removing one. Also, numerous studies have been conducted and determined that unwarranted stop signs make roads less safe, especially for pedestrians, mainly children, as the assumption is that cars will stop at stop signs. However, frequent users of streets become accustomed to no cars being at the intersection with unwarranted stop signs and therefore do not stop. That's why we refer to stop signs as traffic control devices and not speed control devices. Also, others that do stop become frustrated over having to stop for nobody being there. They're familiar with the intersections as being residential roads. They want to make up for unwarranted time, and they speed between the unwarranted stop signs and thus increase speeds rather than reduce speeds. So just a reminder that as you're speaking tonight, if you're here for speed issues and asking for a stop signs are traffic control devices, not speed control devices. And finally, speed bumps, humps, and tables are not currently used in the town of Amherst. They're used in the city of Buffalo. Many people have come before this board asking for them. This board is in favor of their use. However, there are concerns regarding snow removal and delays in emergency response times. It has also been found that as you install these on one street, you push issues to neighboring streets. Speed pumps, humps, and tables affect more than just the street they're installed on. For them to be used, guidelines need to be adopted by the town of Amherst. A pilot installation project was identified by the Highway Department with support from residents who had participated in Traffic Safety Board meetings. Prior to installation, notice was sent to all residents of the affected area, which is a requirement before installation can occur. Unfortunately, there was overwhelming resident opposition, and the project was not moved forward by the town board. A new street has been proposed by this board, and we're hopeful to receive support from residents and town departments to move forward with a pilot project. However, until the pilot project is completed and guidelines are adopted by the town, speed humps, tables, and bumps will not be installed. However, this board is welcome to hearing other people that are in favor of them and their use for potential other areas as pilot projects if the next one that we have here does not move forward. So with that, we will move forward with the agenda this evening, and our first agenda item that we'll go over this item is under old business, item A for Brantwood and Kings, request for an all-way stop sign. And I'll turn it over to Chris to give us historical information on this item.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an old business item. Some months ago, residents were before you to request an all-way stop at the intersection of Brantwood and Kings. This is currently a single stop, stopping the traffic on the bottom leg of the T. This is located in Snyder in the vicinity of two schools, Amherst Middle, Amherst High. At the time, the board held that item asking that a review be conducted of the area stop signs as well as crosswalks. I also included in your package, although I know it wasn't color, the sidewalks are shown in green on the screen if you want to take a look at those. So all-way stop signs in this neighborhood are identified as a red circle, crosswalks identified as a blue line. So again, the idea was to look at various intersections in this area to see what, if there's consistency and if this particular intersection stands out, where you may want to do more traffic control than what is there. So just going south to north, we have a variety of intersections. A lot of them are unwarranted always stops where there are 4 legs, but all of them, in this area at least, are, for a 3-legged intersection, are stopped on that bottom of the T, as you can see. So moving up, again, similar. We have always stops pretty close to the school with crosswalks. T intersections are signed as a single stop sign. Brantwood and Kings, that's the subject intersection under discussion tonight. Single stop sign. The one in this whole area that is not a T intersection signed as a single stop is the intersection of Keswick and Brantwood. That is an always stop. With that, I'll turn it over to the board for additional discussion.
Okay, with that, we'll open it up for public comment, and I believe we have James Mansour here to speak this evening.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jim Mansour. I live at 246 Brantwood. We talked about some things last time, and I don't want to repeat myself, but I guess my main concern is the speed of the traffic as well as the volume of the traffic on our street. And I did note that Brantwood is the only street, only north-south street in that neighborhood that does not have an always stop. I do have a copy of what's on your screen there, and I note that there are several areas where there's not always stops, but there's no school traffic on any of those streets. We have Keswick and Ruskin up top. We have Coniston and Brantwood, and looks like I can't read the name of it, but these are not main thoroughfares. Brantwood is a main thoroughfare. In fact, cars flock to our street because there's no stop sign on Kings. When they have to choose which street to go north-south on, it seems like they pick Brantwood because for that very reason, that they can speed from Saratoga all the way to Westmoreland without stopping, which is about half a mile. So that was our main issue with that. Like I said, all the other streets in that neighborhood along Kings they do have always stops, and that's going from Brantwood all the way to Kingsgate. Also, I had an issue with the fact that there was no crosswalk at Brantwood and Kings, and the fact that it's so close to a school seems problematic. And definitely in my observations of children crossing the street at that intersection, I notice it's just awkward. There's no crosswalks. There's no ramps for them to walk on. And so that seemed to be a red flag to me. So I wanted to reiterate that point. And Brantwood it connects with Main Street, and Kings connects with Harlem. And you also have Amherst Middle School right in there. So you get a lot of through traffic. It's not just local traffic. There's people zipping through whether to go to work or to drop kids off at school, whatever the case may be. That area gets a lot of traffic. And I think the numbers, is that 30 seconds? I think that the numbers last time were about 600 cars a day traveled in that general vicinity of Brantwood and Kings. And the 85th percentile, I believe, the 85th percentile speed was, I believe, I don't remember exactly what it was, but my point was that 15% of the traffic that were in excess of that. I mean, it's about 90 cars a day that speed through that area. So my point is I'm just asking the Traffic Safety Board to send this matter to the town board. It's a unique situation. I think it's a unique intersection, and it's not just your plain vanilla shut down the request. I urge you, send it to the board, let the board decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the audience this evening wishing to speak on this item? Did you sign in this evening or no? That's fine. You can speak and then we'll give you the sign-in sheet to add your name. There's just names on here that don't have an agenda item.
Very good. Good evening, everybody. I'm Gary Dargish. I live at 250 Brantwood, so one house away from Jim. We've actually lived in this house since 1987. I think that the neighborhood has changed a little bit. We have many younger children in the neighborhood that actually walk to the middle school. I think it's a dangerous intersection, and you know, we showed the map earlier. And there were some other intersections in that whole neighborhood where it wasn't full-way stop, but this, remember, is 1 block from the school, right? 1 block from the school. And, you know, we see cars, I know you said it's not a speed control sign, but there are cars that are speeding around that corner, trying to get to the school on time and drop their children off. We have that issue as well. I think it's a dangerous place. And so I think we would ask you to take that into consideration. I think also I watched this meeting in September online. And one thing I noticed from that is that the survey was done, the traffic survey was done in August, but you know, the school is not in session in August. And I think if a survey was done during the school year, you might get a very different kind of response, especially, you know, right before school and right after school. So I think that's the point I want to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak this evening? Yeah. None being heard or seen, we'll close the public comment period and open it up to the board for further discussion. Anybody want to speak first?
As I recall, wasn't there a problem with the crosswalk on the north leg of Brentwood there? Wasn't it,
On the mic.
wasn't it gonna, the crosswalk land in somebody's driveway?
Yeah, there is an issue with the intersection. To do a crosswalk, we wouldn't be able to do a full crosswalk. Because if you look at that map right there on the, what would be the north leg, right there, that would go into a driveway. Right. There would also be cross there, and you could cross on the south side heading over. If you were to install an all-way stop sign, there would also be issues because technically the stop sign would be in the middle of, or in the driveway. Would have to go back behind the driveway, setting it back from the intersection.
Yeah, the book allows you to go 50 feet from the intersection. I think you'd still be within those limits with that driveway.
Okay. I understand the concerns related to the school and where it is. We didn't do a count on this for warrant analysis, but our assumption is based on the counts that we had on the street that it wouldn't meet it, correct, Chris? That was
Well, again, those counts were taken in August. That might
correct. But it's
change.
still the counts on the street, and you'd have to have the 300 per hour, and the total count was 600.
It wouldn't be per hour, it'd be like maybe between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, it might be a lot, and between 3 and 4, it'd be a lot.
So Chris, just correct me on the warrants. It's 300 over the 8-hour average? I always get messed up.
Yes, so 300 entering on the major leg. That could be, you have to figure out which one's the major leg, but it would most likely be Brantwood. So both the north and the south leg, you'd count those volumes and would have to hit 300 an hour for an average of 8 hours. You can pick any 8 hours that you want, but there's, like Kevin was mentioning, there's going to be a peak during the school pickup and drop off, and then be fairly dead in between. And then the minor leg, which would be likely Kings, would have to have 200 per hour for those same 8 hours.
At this point, the intersection does meet the conformity of the rest of the neighborhood, except for the one outlier on the north end of Brantwood.
Yeah, and we do have an outstanding request to the Highway Department for an additional count to, to get out of the August month and have it in the school year. They've been doing some other counts and have not gotten to that yet. I would expect that to happen this month.
So do we wait again? until we get until we get the count, or?
I'll leave it to other members here.
I would not be in favor of signing it without the warrants being met. So absent a count, I would not want to vote.
And would this be a traffic count and a pedestrian count, or just one?
It's getting kind of late in the year for pedestrian count. We could do that during the peak AM and, you know, pick a nicer day if you'd want. We could do that. But it would only be vehicular, unless you ask.
What did you say, Chris? You're going to try to get the traffic counts in November?
Yes.
Well, I think we at least have to wait for that.
And a pedestrian count is very important at that intersection too, because it is, the big hazard is kids walking to school, crossing and stuff. I think a pedestrian count's pretty important there.
Yeah, personally, I would like a pedestrian and vehicle count before, just because it's not, you know, other than that one intersection up top, it's not, you know, every other T intersection that's one street out from the school is, or two streets out, I guess, however you want to qualify that, does not have an all-way stop. So personally, I'd like more information before we make that decision, because then it would just be, if we installed a three-way stop there, then every other street, you know, Dorchester, you know, we open ourselves up to that. And I don't really believe that adding in stop signs there will really solve the problem personally. I think, you know, a little bit of enforcement, maybe the speed trailer. I know the police department is obviously very busy, but something like that I think would probably be a better solution than adding an unwarranted stop sign.
Again, it's the case of the unwarranted stop signs. The whole area's gotten used to them.
You're not getting picked up by
It's the whole unwarranted stop sign problem, because that whole area has gotten used to them. And they were laid in back in the 1930s or 40s or 50s before any of these traffic studies were out there. So,
I mean,
but they're there.
Right.
And the whole neighborhood likes them.
majority of the all-way stop signs are probably unwarranted all-way stop signs. So we'd be adding more unwarranted stop signs to the neighborhood. I'm not opposed to holding the item for additional traffic counts and the warrants and pedestrian counts. I don't think that will change the ultimate outcome of this particular intersection based on what we've already seen. But if that's where the board wants to go, we can refer this to highway and engineering for traffic warrant analysis and pedestrian count. All in favor?
Let's do that.
Can we make sure those counts are done while they're in school, not like the week of Thanksgiving, you know, on a Monday where a lot of people take off? So you're not frustrated again. Make sure that we're,
Al, can you make note of that?
So Al is here this evening, so highway will try to get the traffic counters set up in that area. And then Chris, your department engineering does the pedestrian count, correct?
Yes.
So
Yeah, we'll try to pick the nicest day, probably next week. Looks like we're in the 50s. It's the best I could do.
correct. Okay. Well,
That's right, that's right.
the public comment period on this item is closed. We're holding the item for the next board meeting pending the count, so it'll come back, it'll be held on the old business section, and we will have further discussion at that point, where there'll be another public comment period. So with that, we'll close item A of old business and move to our next order of business this evening. Our next individual signed in this evening
Chairman,
is, yes.
hold on one second. Hey, Gary, did you sign in? I did. Okay, I'll send you the notification next time we talk about it. Thanks.
With that, our next order of business this evening is agenda item number 4, which is North Bailey Avenue between Sheridan Drive and Maple Road. And Chris, you can have the stage.
So the section of North Bailey that has come to our attention is the section between Sheridan and Maple. This has Wegmans, this has Walmart on the south end, and the resident has numerous concerns, safety concerns related to the speeds of vehicles, volume of vehicle, turning cars out of those major driveways, those large developments, and they are asking for consideration of potentially turning North Bailey into a one-way situation, or closing curb cuts along that section, but mainly just to have, in general, traffic concerns that they'd want to bring to this board's attention. And specific to traffic data, this is the comp plan showing that North Bailey is classified as a collector roadway in this section. Oops, let me look here. Yeah, collector right here, and North Bailey's right here. So all of North Bailey north of Sheridan is considered a collector roadway. We do have TISs provided, not only by Passero, which was hired by Costco, which did not include this section, by the way, but we also have the town's traffic impact study for north of Maple as well in that area. In terms of speeds,
Chris, 1 second before you go to the next step there. For that last slide that you had there defining it as a collector,
yeah.
many of the residents probably don't know what that means. Can you just go over the different definitions there of the collector versus the...
Tom, you don't have like a book one, do you? A collector, you don't have like a statement of what collector?
It's really all about traffic count.
Yeah, collector road in layman's terms is it's a road that collects from the miners, local roads feeding into it, and then collects and then distributes to the arterials, which are the major roadways like Sheridan and Main Street. So it collects and then distributes to those larger, arterials, either the major or the minors. Okay. So in terms of speeds in that section, they're actually pretty low from what's been reported by the Greater Niagara Regional Traffic Council. Last time it was collected was in 17, and that's a 32 mile per hour. And that, I believe, was a little bit closer to Walmart, and then 35 and 34. So that's, I believe it's posted at 35.
Chris, before you go on, just for context with those dates there, when was the road converted to a two-way center turn lane?
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier. I don't have an exact date. Al, do you know when it went from a two-lane, which was actually, it was almost like Eggert. It was parking on the east side and then a two-lane. I don't know when that is. I could try to.
Do you know when that was?
Here.
Yes, that was changed over. I worked with Chris on it when Walmart was going in.
Okay.
Turning lanes onto the side streets.
I don't know what that was.
So wide, cars were passing each other.
Yeah.
At least 10 years ago.
I
don't think it was that long ago.
want to say 09, but I'm kind of guessing.
Can you do the
Yeah.
time thing on Google?
Okay. So 2017, it was still that way.
With no two-way center turn
That's
lane?
right. So looks like 2020. Can anyone see that?
19, it looks like.
Yeah, 2000. My guess is
I think it was summer of 2019.
19.
Okay, thank you.
It was just before COVID then.
Yep.
So you're right. And bringing that up, the speeds are collected prior to the reconfiguration.
So can you pull the speeds back up just to get a context?
So we don't have anything newer than 17.
Thank you.
Yep. In terms of vehicle counts, here's where that count was taken, by the way, just south of Hilton, so a little bit north of Walmart. 12,000 vehicles, that's an annual average daily count. as collected in 2017. When you kind of look at level of service thresholds for different criteria on what different lane configurations can handle, this is reported by GBNRTC, that 12,000 easily is accommodated by the 2-lane road. This is a 3-lane road, so we are well above the level of service D or E for 12,000, at least in 2017. So the road itself should be able to handle that volume in that configuration. And that's all I have for information, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll open this up for public comment, and first person signed in this evening is Joe Richter. So you are Patricia? Yeah. Okay. Are you going to talk, Joe, or no? No. Okay.
Hi, my name is Patricia Richter, and I live at 4724 North Bailey Avenue. And we were promised a lot of things with Walmart with this traffic, and now you're going to stick Costco in there. There are more grocery stores in that area than anything else. They said now that per day, there's going to be another 800 to 1,200 cars traveling on Bailey Avenue. Monday at 2 o'clock, the whole street was gridlocked again. You can't go up and down the street. I watched the Twin City ambulances race down the middle of the street during the day. I work from home. There's tractor trailers that go through there during the night it's a 5-ton weight limit. The UB buses, I don't know when they decided they were gonna go down Bailey, but they go down Bailey. We see them all the time. My father-in-law's retired, my mother-in-law's retired, my parents live on the same street. We all see the same thing. There's no parking on Bailey. That's when they decided, when they were gonna put Walmart in, Walmart's traffic study said, oh, they can park on Bailey for the overflow. Well, there was no parking. There's no parking on Bailey anywhere from Sheridan to Maple. They have the Target Plaza that they added on there. At one point, Wegmans had 2 entrances. They have 1 now. We were questioning on the Bailey side if crash gates are something that's available. There's another entrance to Walmart besides the first one on Bailey. If you look, there's another side entrance that comes from the turning lane off of Sheridan. Then there's another entrance. Yeah, the one is right there. And then there's one right at Hennel where the traffic comes in and out at a 4-lane stop. They drive in and out of there. The trucks go between there and BJ's because BJ's is right down the street. They put that in there as well. And there are days you can't even get out of your driveway, 15, 20 minutes. And it's like, you're stuck there. The school buses, they'll block up, if you get a day where somebody decides they're gonna have a delivery for something big, or a school bus, or anything, there's an accident, it's 20 minutes. On a Friday afternoon, the traffic is backed up well past Hilton, all the way down it goes. There's no traffic circle. They decided to make that down right there. That's not even a traffic circle. That's now 5 lanes. There's time people don't even stop or even look because you can't see around that corner at all because they got bushes and everything there, but they don't even slow down. And I mean, it's just like now you want to add Costco to the mix. And that's another, there are days, we literally, to get home from, say I go to Target on a Saturday, I have to get on the boulevard, get on the thruway, and get off at Millersport Highway to get home. Because you can't even get down the street. It takes you a half an hour to get from Target to my home. And I mean, it's nonstop traffic. And I can't see you're gonna add another 800 to 1,200 cars a day for Costco, and you're gonna make it all these people that live in this neighborhood. Alberta's got 4 lanes. They don't go down to Alberta. Nobody goes down there. And that road actually does go from Maple now to Eggert Road, 4 lanes. Because when they knocked down Northtown, they put it so there is a traffic light that goes all the way through. And it's 4 lanes. I mean, it's usable space. Nobody drives on it. There's never anybody on it. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next person for this item is Kent Richter.
Good evening. My name is Kent Richter. I live at 4714 North Bailey Avenue. I'm a past president of the North Bailey Homeowners Association. Grew up here quite a bit when Walmart was going in and Wegmans. We were told Wegmans would not come out onto Bailey Avenue. They would go out onto Alberta, which is designed for that. That's 4 lanes. Same with Walmart. I was told we could put a crash gate in the back entrance for fire apparatus. I am a 54-year member of the North Bailey Fire Company, and it's not a problem putting a crash gate back there. These trucks that go up and down Bailey is ridiculous. It's a 5-ton limit, and they got to be stopped. And when Costco goes in there, it's going to be crazy on our street. Most of the days, like Patty said, traffic's backed up from Sheridan Drive almost to Emerson. It's crazy. And you're going to open up Costco? We got 15 grocery stores within a square mile. Come on. That's ridiculous for one small area. Something's got to be done. If you put it one way south, it would solve 90% of the problems. That would be phenomenal. Close off Walmart on Bailey Avenue also. Use the signal. That's what it's there for. We watch cars coming down. They come off of Sheridan Drive, they turn onto Bailey, and then go into Walmart. They go right by the signal. Same with the truck traffic. It's ridiculous for Walmart. And like Patty said, they go over down the street to Target, the trucks, the Pepsi trucks, and all the delivery trucks. It's not designed for truck traffic. This is a residential area. I've been there 45 years. It's gotten worse and worse every year, especially around the holidays. I've been to Costco in Florida. We go there in the winter. It's a zoo. We don't need that on Bailey Avenue. It's a residential. Put them over on Alberta. Put them on Maple. Move Costco, in my opinion, out to Eastern Hills Mall. That'd be the best place for it. But you got to stop building on our area for traffic. You got to really consider traffic. These traffic counts are they're not accurate. Sit in my front yard any day of the week and count cars. I'll tell you, they don't slow down. They're not going to 34, 35. Some of them are going 55 and 60. They fly through there, they slow down at the stop sign, and they go right through it. They don't even stop. So I want to thank you and have a nice holiday. I'll be talking to Chris later.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else signed in this evening for this item, or anyone else wishing to speak on this item this evening? Costco is up at the old UB Annex, where they're knocking down the buildings by the Key Bank building across the street from Best Buy.
And just for clarification, this board has no say on whether or not Costco goes in.
So, Chairman,
Hold on one second.
Chairman, if I could, I'd like to just bring up the data specific to.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item, or any questions to be asked on this item?
Actually, I have a question if you don't mind. This is the first time I've heard somebody suggest the idea of changing the street to a one-way street. That's the first time I've ever heard that suggestion. What would be involved in doing that if we chose to do that?
Never had that request come before us, but it would take, I believe, Chris, that would take town legal action to make
Yeah.
that change, correct?
It's a town board action. We've done it in one location. It was a residential street. I couldn't tell you the procedures on how to go about doing that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, we have nobody else wishing to speak on this item this evening, so we will close the public comment period and open it up for the board for discussion. And Chris, I think I know where you're going with this, so we'll let you go.
I just wanted to bring up the traffic impact study as prepared by the town's consultant, CNS companies, so this is not coming from the petitioner. They are projecting that 10% of the Costco traffic would be using this section of North Bailey. So what does that mean in terms of number of vehicles? We look at the trip distribution for the trip gen, and this is broken up into AM and PM. So they're projecting 37 vehicles on that section. This is new vehicles, specific going towards Costco. in the AM, and then another 40 in the AM going southbound. In the PM, 56 going northbound, 56 going southbound. So an additional, let's just look at the PM. They did not do Saturday. The petitioner might have, but I'm only showing, oh, wait a minute.
However, I think where we're talking here, though, is that the comments are that there's 800 additional trips that are referenced in the traffic study, but those 800 trips are on the northern leg of Bailey, north of Maple Road. That was the study area for the Costco development. So Bailey Road, south of Maple Road, was not part of that study other than the intersection. So the 800 cars that they're referencing on North Bailey doesn't mean that those 800 cars are going to move to south of Maple. Also, as part of the development for Costco, from the information that's here in this packet that Chris is showing, as part of that traffic study, Beaumart Road, which is currently the road that is by where the Dick's used to be, which is now Catalyst Fitness, and the Beaumart Road that is there that Chris is showing. That road would be extended into the area where Costco is going. So that does take some of the traffic flow off of Bailey because there's another access road going in as part of that development, an extension of Beaumart Road. Beaumart Road will continue straight into the development area where the Costco is. So not all of the traffic is exiting Costco to Bailey. Traffic exiting from Costco will have another exit point on Beaumart to come up to Maple Road.
And I do have a correction. Jennifer just pointed out, it's not a Saturday peak. I'm sorry, it's not an AM peak. It is a weekday PM peak was that first number, and a Saturday midday peak. Traffic engineers are getting away from using AM peaks ever since COVID. There really isn't much of an AM peak anymore. So the two figures that they're really looking at is PM peak and Saturday midday. That's all I have to add there, Chairman.
Okay. With that, any other comments from members of this board?
The Beaumont-Meyer area is going to have the big impact. I really don't know how much this is going to bleed up onto Maple. And a lot of the traffic is going to go off onto the 290 also. You're going to go behind there, onto the 290. That's going to be the main access area. I really don't know how much North Bailey is going to be affected by the Costco. Because a lot of it's going to bleed off further north. That's what the traffic, because it's going to be access from Maple, not Sheridan, it's going to be access from Maple going north, and then from the 290 coming back that way, and also from the plazas that are bordering on the boulevard. That's where the traffic's going to come from. That's what they're thinking, I think.
Just some thoughts for me. Personally, the thought of turning it into a one-way street, I am not very convinced that would alleviate speed concerns in particular. I mean, if you made it a one-way, you'd have multiple lanes go. You'd probably, most likely, if they redid it, you'd have multiple lanes going in one direction. And when you have multiple lanes, in my opinion, that leads to more people speeding, and you'd be more likely to have crashes because people can weave in and out of traffic. So I think you'd have people who are more likely to, I think you'd have more sideswipe crashes, and it'd be more difficult for people to pull out of their driveway. Again, that's just my opinion, but I live on Eggert Road, which is also a very busy road and has multiple lanes, and that is my impression watching that traffic drive by every day. And in terms of the one other question I had first was the crash gates. I didn't really understand what that meant. Can someone elaborate on exactly what was meant by crash gates and where exactly?
Be a fire only.
Oh, like an emergency exit. Okay. And at what intersections in particular would be?
The ask for that has always been at the back end of Walmart.
That one right
That
there?
one right there.
Okay.
So it'd be emergency access only.
But the comment, they also wanted not only the back access of Walmart, but the one just to the south of Walmart, as well as the Wegmans south of Sheridan, which is now signalized, they also wanted that blocked off so that all of the Wegmans, you got to pan down, Chris.
Right here.
Yeah, take away that intersection, block that off, so that all of the traffic from Wegmans is forced out onto Alberta, which is extremely underutilized because the Boulevard Mall property is basically vacant.
Okay.
That's what the request was.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
And I live in that neighborhood, I live off of Bailey, and I can attest to all of the traffic and how much it's grown over the years. And, I mean, just very recently, they're doing a water line project there, so they have the southbound outer lane coned off, and that just backed up traffic even worse. So it's tough in there, I agree. The solution to it, though, is very challenging, especially with the new development coming in.
That's what I was just going to say. Can we come up with a creative solution? Because I think we identify and recognize. I mean, if I had to wait a half an hour to get out of my driveway or get to my home, that no matter what any counts or any analysis are showing me, there's a problem. So is there a creative solution? If you block off, like you said, from Wegmans and they're forced out onto Alberta, will that alleviate enough? What is the solution within our power or suggestion or within the rules that we can identify as a board? I don't know. I'm looking for my engineers.
I do believe that the traffic impact study for Costco did recommend some improvements to Bailey Avenue. I don't recall what those are. I don't know if anybody else remembers.
There's a couple signals they're going to put in.
But I think it's north of this area, primarily in the Costco area.
Yeah, the town is currently looking at potentially reconfiguring, widening that intersection of Bailey and Maple. That was as part of a generic environmental impact statement. It identified that intersection as currently failing in certain movements. An addition of lanes would help that intersection. So the town is exploring that, but there's no funding in place yet to do anything at that intersection. But I can recognize and attest to the level of service issues or the delay at that intersection that has been documented.
I've been on this board for 9 or 10 years, and I learned something tonight. The word one-way street, I don't think it's been mentioned. And I've listened to hundreds and hundreds of traffic problems and speed problems and everything else, and we never ever had much of an alternate route. I'm surprised about this Alberta Drive thing. I don't know much about Alberta Drive. Okay, never go that way. But I think there's a couple items that we can look at. One way and Alberta.
So I just want to bring up the conversation because we've had this, bring this into the conversation as well because they were mentioned numerous times about the truck traffic, the 5-ton weight limit on the road. In regard to enforcement for that, we've had this on other roads in the past, but Chris or Officer Persons, that would, local delivery vehicles would be exempt from that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the reason why I bring that up is that if the vehicle is making a delivery to Walmart, if they're leaving Walmart to go over to BJ's, or if they're leaving Walmart to go over to the Target, those are access roads. So even though they are over the weight limit for the road, those vehicles are making a delivery vehicle, so they are permitted. So there would not be enforcement of those vehicles if they're able to prove that they are making a local delivery to a road that has a driveway, an access road to that, right? Correct? Right.
All the deliveries through Walmart is posted on Shared Drive, all deliveries coming off Shared Drive.
That's correct.
They can't make that turn on the Hennel into the back delivery area. And they leave there and shoot across the Hennel over to BJ, which they can go back to Shared Drive and down Shared.
Yeah, so that was done intentionally to have all the truck traffic come off Sheridan This is all heavy-duty pavement with a circle here for the trucks to turn around, back in, and then exit that same way. So it's actually prohibited by signage, just internally, for truck traffic. We spent many months trying to improve that signage and getting it through Walmart's heads not to go in these driveways.
However, if those vehicles, though, Chris, are driving North Bailey Road making deliveries that are not related to Walmart and they're accessing other businesses in that area, they're a local delivery. That could not be. So the public comment period is not open at this point. Thank you. The public comment period is not open at this point. So the conversation is with the board at this point. So looking for conversation up here.
Just a few additional thoughts. I mean, the idea, looking at those two entrances from Walmart, and the possibility of putting, a crash gate or an emergency gate. I mean, on its face, I'm not opposed to that. But then when you actually look at like which one you would close down, ideally you'd want to close down the one that's not connected to a four-way intersection. But the other one that is connected to the four-way intersection off Hennel is, it doesn't really seem conducive to act as more of like a main connection. So you'd have to, in theory, either close down that one or close down both of them. And that would raise the question of whether or not there are 2 points of access for the fire department, because I'm almost positive the fire department would require 2 points of access here.
So for the crash gate, we can make the recommendation, but the site plan that was approved by the town board and the planning board when the Walmart was built does not contain that. So if that was to be recommended to be put in, we can guarantee that Walmart will be here in opposition.
Yes, just commenting on that, just my thoughts.
But we can make the recommendation.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just not sure which one you do. Just moving on. I do think, just trying to get little things here and there, the intersection of Hennel and Bailey doesn't have a crosswalk crossing actually Bailey itself. It only has the crosswalks on the leg for Hennel. I do think adding in additional crosswalks there would be a very minor but significant improvement for people who walk in that area and would draw more attention to pedestrians in that area. So right there's no crosswalks that actually cross Bailey. I think that is something that's doable. There are already ramps there. Adding in a couple stripes of paint would be helpful. The resident had talked, I believe it was Patricia who had mentioned about the five-way intersection a little farther north. I'm not opposed to the idea of making that a roundabout if the rest of the board was interested in having that conversation. I personally drive through here all the time, and I don't really have personally problems with visibility when I drive through here. Maybe it's just the specific directions I'm going, but I'm not opposed to having that conversation. Those are just the thoughts off the top of my head here.
Chairman, we do have a plan conceptually that would make this into a roundabout. We have put a cost estimate to it. It is in the long-term plan for this area to turn that into a roundabout. I think it used to be a traffic circle at one time. The right-of-way is actually a circular in this area, so it does allow you the ability to modify that to a roundabout. But at this stage, we don't have funding committed towards that intersection.
But you have engineering drawings done?
We have conceptual drawings showing that it would work.
Okay.
And as far as visibility at that intersection, going through there all the time, the Bailey Avenue volume is so much higher than the other legs. Oftentimes, if you're on one of those legs coming in from the side, the people going north and south on Bailey just don't even look. They're just they're so used to not having traffic there that they just blow through it. So if you're coming from one of those other legs, you have to be make eye contact with that person before you proceed.
Okay. I mean, with that in mind, I think I would probably be in favor of recommending a roundabout there. I do think that would probably be an improvement over what's currently there, as long as the pedestrian access is maintained and pedestrians can cross safely. And additionally, I think pursuing those crosswalks for the intersection of Hennel and Bailey would be worthwhile. As far as the lane configurations and going to a one-way street, I'm really not convinced that that would solve the problem personally, but that's, again, just my opinion.
I think the one way they were asking because of the amount of traffic, right, the volume of traffic. So from an engineering perspective, is that even allowable? I mean, what would that,
You'd have to find a way to divert the other traffic. So if you're only allowing one-way traffic south or north, whichever it is, that other traffic has to go somewhere. And right now, there isn't a clear, I mean, you do have Alberta, but it only goes so far, like it doesn't go,
you're kicking the can down the road, right? So you have to have a plan of,
In addition, my comment to that would be, there's a lot of residential houses on that street. We're hearing from two owners on that street. That notice would have to go to all the residents on that street, and they would all have to be in favor before the town board would take action to convert it to a one-way street. So my assumption is that for every resident that's in favor of the one-way street, there's probably one that would be opposed to it as well. So that would have to play out with the residents that live on the street to come to a consensus of wanting the demand of the one-way street. As we know from other actions this board has taken and put before the town board historically will follow the direction of what the residents are seeking, what the majority of residents want.
and what's the option for Wegmans for closing off
That was a
that one?
question that I had actually. The resident did make the comment that they were told when the Wegmans was put in, he's been there for, I think you said 40-plus years, 45 years, that when the Wegmans was put in, they were told that there would not be access to Bailey from that parking lot, but now it's a signalized intersection. So my assumption, since the town installed this intersection and the signalization at that intersection, that at some point was approved if there was a deed or anything on the Wegmans development for no access to Bailey. That
and back, Wegmans used to be on the other side of the plaza, and that used to be a Chase Pitkin.
correct.
And then it used to not be signalized. It was approved as unsignalized, and then eventually the warrants were met for a completely three-color signal there, and Wegmans paid for that improvement. 10 years ago,
Shutting down
maybe?
of that intersection is not something that would occur.
Is there a way to make Alberta more favorable?
Yes. How can we get traffic more on Alberta and less off of?
The redevelopment of the Boulevard Mall.
No, that's just
Yeah,
gonna,
no,
that's just gonna
that's
increase
true.
the traffic, but yeah.
It's true.
It's true, once the Boulevard Mall, which is all scheduled for redevelopment, and you shift development to that area, hopefully that would shift traffic from, I'm saying hopefully, if you have more development. Right now, the traffic for development is moving from the plazas up at Boulevard Square to Sheridan and Maple. If you shift development to the west, to that site, when the traffic hits Maple, they're going to make a right-hand turn to get to the developments and the businesses and properties that take the place of the Boulevard Mall, which in turn would divert them to Alberta versus Bailey. In an ideal situation, can we guarantee that's going to happen at this point? No, because we don't know the development of what the Boulevard Mall site is going to become.
So I think the extension of Beaumart as part of the Costco development will help. I think the suggestions about adding the crosswalks at that one intersection might not help, but it would increase pedestrian visibility. I wouldn't be opposed to adding the crash gates and closing off the access at the Walmarts, but again, that kind of makes things more complex from the board, but I would not be in favor of removing the traffic signal at Wegmans.
So is there
And I
a,
would not be in favor of a one-way.
we have two members up here at this point that appear to be in favor of the recommendation to, I don't know who would be recommended, would you recommend it to the town board, Chris? For,
What are you recommending?
if we wanted to recommend the installation of a crash gate for emergency access only at that rear entrance of the property site, would that have to go to the town
would-
board
it
for
would
a planning board modification, a site plan modification? I'd have
Yeah,
never,
there's two routes in going about that. You can refer to the planning department for, when Walmart comes in with a modification, you force that on them as part of the approval. But it's a curb cut, and that is, you know, the highway superintendent would be responsible for, you know, that access point and whether or not he'd want to revoke that curb cut permit and access. It would not be a town board decision. Is that right, Tom?
So we could refer that,
But I want to, yeah, I also want to warn you that all that traffic would have to go somewhere. So if you're not doing both, they're all, you know, it would just move to Hennel. And if you do both, they're all moving to Sheridan, and I don't even know if DOT would allow that. That would really put a burden on that signalized intersection.
And that road south of that intersection, we've had the residents come in complaining about that because of all the traffic. So
Correct.
it's, you might solve the problem in one area and push it to another.
Crosswalks and roundabouts, I think, personally.
I'm not sure the roundabout, I don't think we need to take any action on that. I think this board historically has already moved in that direction, and that's what's prompted the engineering work and cost estimates and everything to be done there. I remember having conversations about that, and I remember seeing the plans for that.
Yeah.
So I think that's, we could move again at this point, recommending the installation to push that to the town board to hopefully identify funding for it in capital plans. If we want to go on record of stating that, we can.
I personally think it's worthwhile.
Okay.
Think
So,
the time has come? Think the time has come?
That's my opinion.
so at this point, there's a motion.
I'll
So are you,
second
so we have a motion from Greg for a recommendation to the town board for the installation of the roundabout at
That
Bailey
five.
and Emerson.
Yep, and the crosswalks on
But
Hennel.
that doesn't take town
Oh,
board action.
okay.
So the other one would go to the town board.
All right, so, yeah, just the,
Recommendation from us to the town board for identification of funds to move that project forward.
sure.
It'll help keep traffic moving on Bailey, I think. That's the idea of the circle, is to keep traffic moving.
Yes. So is there, all in favor of that?
There's no second,
I have to
right?
have a second.
There's a second from Kevin.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Second from Kevin. Any further conversation? None being heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that motion carried 6-0. In regard to the installation of the crosswalks for the east-west legs of the Bailey and Hennel intersection, all in favor of,
Yeah. Correction,
I'm
no,
sorry.
correction,
I'm sorry,
north,
east-west.
north-south.
it's the,
They don't go this way.
it's the east-west.
There's no marked crosswalks is what we're saying.
They're like half crosswalks.
Yeah, but there's no painted
No,
lines.
I think they have,
Oh.
because this is where the
So that,
You're saying this is an
men
old
working
picture?
sign was.
When was that done?
Yeah.
so that's all been
Yeah,
redone.
Remember like 6 months ago, I complained about the men working sign?
Good idea.
I
Someone already thought
drove
of
through
it.
there like a week ago. I didn't see them.
Okay. So then there's no action to be taken there if those already exist.
Good work, Greg. You got him in.
They're in.
Oh, they are.
So this is a Google problem.
Well, it's an image from 2022.
Okay.
The residents are there if they were installed as part of the pavement. Okay,
Yep.
okay, so it's paved this summer and done, so we don't have the updated visual of it.
That's right, it was paved, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
In regard to the request for the one-way street, is there anyone on this board that's in favor of further pursuing the one-way street?
Unless there's a way to get that traffic accommodated, it's not just gonna push a problem, it's gonna make another problem. It's gonna create an aneurysm.
Well, I'm in favor of it if we start talking about things like the Boulevard Mall and so on and so forth. I mean, it's certainly a decision that isn't going to be made tonight, okay? It's going to take months or years of discussion and study. Yes, I'd be in favor of starting that process.
I would be in favor of it as well, because we come up with no solution, right? We're just keep talking about the same things. So if we at least explore what that would mean, and then you hear an explanation that it can't be done, then you at least feel that you've been heard, and then we've done the due process of at least exploring if that's a possibility. So,
So what we do, we ask for an engineering review of what would happen if?
It would have to go to an outside engineering correct, Chris? There'd have to be funding identified to study that.
Tom, isn't there like a committee that's reviewing the Boulevard Mall that's, a group of? So I would say refer that to the technical committee who's working on the mall to see if it can be considered as part of the overall Boulevard Central District planning.
All in favor of what Chris suggested?
I think we should get clear what one-way we're talking about here. Ken, you're the one who suggested the one-way, correct?
Yes.
What do you propose?
One way heading north.
From,
That would stop all the traffic from coming up over Consumer Square and Costco. It's just brutal. They built that whole area.
heading north from what, Sheridan? From Sheridan all the way north? So just cut that traffic off and have it only north, have it only southbound?
Be northbound.
Everybody northbound only?
Northbound only from Sheridan to Maple.
And then also understand, even if, let's say that is a possibility, as the Chairman said, you have all your neighbors. So everybody buying into that is not probably like,
I would
okay.
I would recommend at this point, the recommendation, as Chris stated, for the technical board that's reviewing the redevelopment of the Boulevard Mall to help identify solutions for the traffic problems on Bailey, and wait for further action from the homeowners association to determine if there is interest from the residents in that stretch of interest in turning it to a one-way street, because if they do their survey and find their information out from the homeowners association and there's major opposition there, then there's no reason for this board or the town to invest engineering studies, traffic studies, everything else into that, knowing that there would be a resident opposition. So I would ask the residents to take that back to their homeowners, and then if you have that petition and find that there is overwhelming support for that, to bring it back to Chris and this board for further consideration. But we can refer traffic, ask the technical planning committee that is doing the redevelopment for the Boulevard Mall to take North Bailey under consideration for traffic mitigation as part of the redevelopment.
In other
Okay.
words, it's a new idea. Let's give it a try. Let's look at it, see what happens. It's a new idea. And that might be a good idea. It might not be.
Okay, so with that, we will close item number 4 on the agenda, and we will move to item number 2 on the agenda, which is Maynard Drive near Main Street, safety concerns related to overflow parking from the Sacred Heart School.
Thank you, Chairman. Residents of Maynard, close to Main Street, have brought a request forward specific to the amount of overflow parked vehicles on Maynard Drive, which is a residential roadway. Parking is currently prohibited on the east side, and they are parking on the west side from Sacred Heart. So a little bit of background. Sacred Heart used to have an arrangement with, I believe, former Key Bank to allow for students and staff to park in their lot. That is what this large group of vehicles in the northwest corner is. That, to my understanding, has been a terminated agreement since the new ownership with Spectrum, I believe, is the new owner. Therefore, Sacred Heart has since installed a parking lot in the rear of their building. In addition, they park people at this property that they own, and they now also own the former fire station / former People Inc. building, and they park vehicles there. I've invited the school to be present tonight. They can speak more about their arrangements. The residents have been invited as well. So I can tell you that the residents are not in support of a parking restriction. Rather, they'd like to come to some sort of agreement to try to have those vehicles parked elsewhere, because it is causing a safety issue for them backing in and out of their driveways. Let me just check to see if I have anything on this. So I can pull up just the site plan for your information on what that looks like. because it doesn't show up in the aerials. This parking lot has been installed. This was before this board reviewed and approved. There was a parking analysis that came with this improvement, and I believe that was distributed in the package. With that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, so with that, we will open it up for public comment. I do believe we have a representative from Sacred Heart here this evening. Okay, a few of you. So what we'll do is we'll actually, since there isn't a specific property reference here, we'll have the property owners and site speak first. So I believe we have, is it Eileen Scannell?
So residents speak first, then Sacred Heart after. Right,
Okay.
Chairman?
Yep, we'll go that way. Okay, so if I call your name, if you're for the residents, if you're with the school, just let me know that you're with the school and we'll come back to you. Jamie Henzalian? Not wanting to, she had to leave, okay. There's a Jane Cox here without an agenda item. Are you for this item? No, okay. Chris Cloutier? Cloutier? Would you like to speak or no? Okay. Anne Marie Hubert? You don't want to speak? Oh, okay. Is that Jack? John? John, you want to speak or no? No. Terry Wincott? Would you like to speak? Well, you get to be the voice.
I'm Terry Wincott. I live at 36 Maynard. I'm 4 houses down from Main Street. The big problem with the safety is the kids, I mean, I know they got to park someplace. I know that there's still open spots at Sacred Heart. I don't know why they can't park there, but I'm sure they'll speak to that. Is we cannot see out of our driveways anymore. It's because it's a hill. It goes quickly downhill, and because the girls, there's usually about 12 cars every morning, in addition to some local people's cars, and you can't see cars coming up the hill at you anymore because they park all the way around the curve. And so it's like a blocked sight line, because they all go all the way down the curb so that you can no longer see cars coming up the hill at you. And because they're parking so close to each other, you know, they kind of sneak in there, and they're there by between 7:30, 7:45 is when they all park. We have concerned about how will they snowplow. Right now, our garbage sometimes isn't picked up because they actually move our garbage cans out of the street onto the grass so that they can park. But then when the garbage trucks come, they can't get to the garbage cans. The same thing is going to happen with leaf pickup because they're parked end to end. No one's going to be able to get to the leaves. Those are the main 3 things. I've talked to people who live on Crosby, which is the next cross street. It kind of curves back there. And they can no longer see to get onto Maynard. They have a stop sign, and they usually stop and then move up. But because of the cars parked all on that street, they cannot see cars coming down Maynard anymore. I don't know what the solution is, whether it's to restrict it to 4-hour parking or to restrict it so that once you get to the top of the hill, there's no longer parking around that curve. I know that it's becoming a real issue. I mean, they're young, they're kids, they're not the best parkers. So often we have to go out and say, excuse me, you can't park there. Your bumper or the bottom part of your car is sticking in our driveway. I know on Berryman near Amherst High School, there's just no parking. And maybe that's the only solution to getting a visibility. but hopefully you'll be able to come up with something. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Demert? Okay. Marty Clark?
My name's Martin Clark. I'm at 20 Maynard. I've been there for 20 years, over 20 years. It was a give and take with the parking next door. We never had a problem. They purchased the property. We've had a few parking incidences there, and they want numbered parking for everybody, and that's great. That's their property now. They have 10 empty spots that they pay for seniors over there that are empty. The kids don't have a car. They lost Spectrum, and there's plenty of room at Spectrum. They got to come up with a deal. They need 20 spots about. This is going all the way down the street, right around the corner. I'm not walking a block away up the hill to go to my house, right? You'd be very frustrated if you had to do that. Sometimes the garbage don't get picked up. Sometimes kids park partially in my driveway. They've lost Shakespeare in the Park over this. You know, they used to have an office in there, and they kicked them out because they can't have parking for them, have any more room for parking for them now. Yeah, they gotta come up with a solution and not park on the straight. There's plenty of room all on the back at Spectrum. They gotta come up and compromise, make a deal for 10 extra spots. You know, we're looking for 20 cars maybe. That's it. Otherwise, it's gonna be a nightmare. Then they're gonna not be able to park there, and plowing. Yeah, that's it basically. I mean, there was give and take. This balanced all out. But when you give parking, you know, and number each parking, and everybody gets assigned parking, now it becomes, you know, oh, that was my spot, and you know, it's empty. I'm not even using it, and that's bad. This isn't going to be solved unless they find 20 spots. We gotta find 20 spots for you.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay, thank you. Is it Adam Clark? Did you want to speak or no? Was it Aaron Clark? Okay. Great. Do we have anyone else in the audience for this item from the residents that would like to speak? With that, we'll turn it over to the school, and I will leave it to, I believe we have 2 individuals from the school.
Oh, wait a second, one thing. Not to mention that horseshoe that they have built for buses and pickup. No parents use that. I had a guy in front of my house trying to start an argument with me about waiting there an hour to pick up his granddaughter. Waiting. The parents also in and out there. And he said to me, I can't park over there or over there, when there was 10, 12 empty spots over there. I said, go over there and park. You paid, you know, $15,000 for that kid to go to school here. And you can't
Okay.
sit there and pick up your kid.
Okay, thank you.
No, he's got to park the street and sit there in front of my house.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not sure who wants to speak first from the school. Okay, thank you. Yes, we'll allot additional time from the school.
Does that time need to be divvied up among the speakers for this evening?
No, because we'll probably have more questions for you anyway as we talk about this item, so we will let the clock run here.
So my name is Jennifer Demert. I am the head of school at Buffalo Academy of the Sacred Heart, and as was referred to earlier, for as long as the school has had drivers, we have used the building and the parking to the right there. I'm not so good with the north, south, east, west. We were formally informed in February of 2023 that as of June 30th, 2023, none of that parking would be available to us any further. And Benchmark has been a very good neighbor for many, many years. We've tried to purchase that property for them. It's not for sale. So we needed to go about solving our parking problem in a different way, and I think we got as creative as we possibly could. So we built to the back of the building. We also approached People Inc., which is not contiguous, but it's the next property up, to see if they might have an interest in selling that property to us. We were able to purchase that property in addition to building and go through the town of Amherst approval process for a parking lot to the rear of the building to accommodate which was a approved parking plan by the town of Amherst, all before the start of school. That to me is a good neighbor. The front circle is reserved for busing. So we bus from 20 different districts, and we need access for busing as well. We also created a pickup and drop-off plan, and I will tell you that not every parent complies with the pickup or drop-off plan, but we made a circular drive to the rear of the building to get as many vehicles off Main Street as possible, and we've staggered drop off in the morning. It is staggered. Parents drop off at different times to their own schedule, but pick up in the afternoon we thought would be the most triggered point. So we have our drivers leave the lot and ask parents to delay pickup for 10 minutes so that we can clear the back lot and then have our not any backup on Main Street. For the most part, that's worked really, really well. So we accommodate all of our senior drivers, which is a senior privilege, as well as all of our faculty and staff on campus, and that's what we sought the approval for. Those students who are driving, again, it's not something I can control, but those students who are driving and parking along Maynard are juniors or younger. And I wouldn't say that there is many. I would say there's probably about 8 girls that park there. That's what I would estimate based upon surveying the girls and asking that question. I would say there's about 8 of them. We've invested, I think our annual budget is about $6 million. We've invested since February $1.5 million in solving this problem. I think that's a good neighbor. I don't know that there is anything more that we can do. I have absolutely reached out to parents and students anytime that there's been a complaint by the neighbors. I believe I personally, as the head of school, have received 5, and I have emails documenting all of the communication that I've had with families since then. The girls are young drivers. They are young parkers. They think if there's 2 centimeters, they can fit another car there. So we have really tried to train them to know that you need to be at least a foot off of each of those driveways. They're probably not accustomed to sight lines and the like. I do think there's a solution here. I think it's a neighborly solution. We have, and it was referred to by one of our neighbors, we have numbered every single spot. And we've done that to create a lack of chaos and order in the morning. So if every student knows where they're to park and every faculty member knows where they're to park, that creates a smooth transition in the morning and afternoon traffic. There may be on any given day a parking spot in the back, 2 or 3 even, but that's because a student isn't at school. It's not because it hasn't been assigned. Every spot, with the exception of 2 spots that we have for visitors, has been assigned. I'll say that one more time. Every single spot, with the exception of 2 spots, and they're to either side of the connectivity between the main campus and what we call Clare Music Hall. There's a little pathway that comes through there where you have the lining. One to either side there has been reserved for visitor parking. In addition to that, our plan for other visitors during the day and our instructions to families and to our staff is that we set up meetings anytime from 8:15 to 2 o'clock so that we can use the front circle for any additional visitors to the building, avoiding the drop-off and pickup for buses. We hired a parking consultant and an attorney to work us through this process. I also am an attorney by trade, her profession, and thought really hard about how we can make the best use of this property, still preserve some green space to keep our neighbors on Crosby happy, because it wasn't that many years ago that we were here about a gym on the back of the property. And we're a Franciscan institution, and so ecology is really important to us as well. So we've done the very best we can. We've invested in this. We've thought it through. We think we've been very good neighbors. I have with me today Chip Grieco, who is the attorney that worked with us in the approval process for the parking plan, my board chair, Eileen Scannell, and the treasurer of our board, Bob Beiswinger, who is a former treasurer at Damon College and has had some dealings with this board in the past. I don't know if there's anything else that you find helpful.
If we have any questions as we talk, we'll reach back out.
And we have had to ask neighbors not to park in what was the People Inc. parking lot. I think that there was some casualness to that before. All of those spots have been assigned. I guess I would say one more thing. We also have assigned our faculty and staff to the further spots. So they are in the People Inc. building so that we have fewer students crossing the road. So I think we were very, very thoughtful in approaching this in a way that was as efficient as possible and really made the investment into solving the problem. Thank you.
Is anyone else from Sacred Heart here going to speak tonight? Okay. Hold on one second. Is there anyone else in the audience to speak this evening?
Bob was part of the Damon parking problem, so he's been before this board. It seems like parking problems follow you.
They seem to, Chris, and my name is Robert Beiswinger. I live at 66 Bentham Parkway. As I introduced before, I'm the treasurer of the board of directors at Sacred Heart. I just wanted to bring up one point, and this gentleman over here had referenced their attempts of securing additional parking from Benchmark. And I just wanted to emphasize the fact that since they've notified us of our inability to park in their lots anymore, we have gone back to them a few times to see if maybe they could loosen up even some of the spaces, as the gentleman mentioned, maybe 20 spaces to help solve the problem. And to date, they have been very, very reluctant to do so, to the point where we're almost considered pests now. And we certainly don't want to, constantly approach them, but maybe as their situation with Spectrum pans out and they could see that they may have additional ample parking, we would probably be very willing to enter into a formal rental with them to get the spaces if they would allow us to do so. So I just wanted to bring that clarification tonight.
And Bob, before you leave, is it a monetary consideration or are they just unwilling to entertain?
No, they don't. Well, Jennifer?
So they're unwilling to entertain that at this time. What I've been told is that they need all of the parking count for the new development that they have in their call center. I guess the town of Amherst has some pretty significant requirements for parking for that particular utilization of the building, and therefore they don't have it to allow us to use or to purchase.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. On the topic of the town requiring,
Public comment. Is there anyone else to speak on this item this evening? None being heard, we'll close the public comment. You've already one.
We're not blaming Sacred Heart. They've done all they can. But something, because of the overflow, has got to change on the street, whether it's limited hours of parking, stopping them parking around to the point where it goes downhill, so we can see to get in and out of our streets. I mean,
Okay.
something's got to be changed, because right now it's unsafe.
Okay, thank you. let one go, let the next one go.
I don't know, again, these are neighbors that we've lived with for a long time. I know Terry from when I used to practice. I do think that there can be some solution, and this might sound the exact opposite of the solution. But what if you opened up both sides of parking? I don't have more kids who would park, but it would break up that parking from
Okay. Okay. Okay, so with that, we'll close the public comment period and open it up to conversation here with the board. I'll turn it over to Greg. I think Greg had a question to liaison or Chris or someone here.
Yeah, I was just curious about the comment related to the town requiring, like, does the town actually require, based on a call center, a number of parking spots? That doesn't, it's not something I'm aware of. Yeah, please.
That one's on you.
Sorry, I don't mean to infringe on the dais.
So,
Excuse me.
Tom's with the planning board, so with the planning department, so Tom can answer the
So,
question.
the way our parking ordinance is written, it's based on the use of the property, not based on a zoning district as one might think. Call centers generate a lot of people within the building at one time, which then in turn generates a lot of need for the parking of cars. So I don't know the exact number of stalls that are required based on the call center use off the top of my head. I do know that it's larger than you might think, because buildings like you can see here on the corner are large building footprints that house a lot of people and usually are multi-story buildings.
Stuff them in.
That's all you want, two-story.
And so at this,
So that's yes, correct. That's what's required per school. What I was referencing was a requirement for a call center, which is the property to the east.
so what we're talking about, so there was a parking agreement with the neighboring property. That parking agreement no longer exists, which is now what is creating the problem for the neighborhood. We've heard already that the school has continually asked Benchmark, who's the owner of that building. They've become the pest. There is requirements from the town regarding what that is as well. Benchmark at the end of the day is the owner of the property. They have to do what they're required to do with the town for the use of the building. I'm just asking, have the neighbors reached out to Benchmark on their behalf regarding Benchmark and the ability to use that facility for the school? I'm asking that question because there's a strain on the neighborhood. Benchmark, being an owner of that property, would probably like to be a good neighbor as well for the use of their building. The neighbors that are over there will also probably have the people working in their call center. My assumption would be that the owners of that property want to be a good neighbor to the area as well. So I'm just asking if the neighbors in the area that live on those streets have reached out to Benchmark at all about them potentially working with Sacred Heart to be a good neighbor to the community where they're moving. If you've reached out to Spectrum, who's the user of that building, to identify what the parking space requirements that they are. Sometimes business to business, they're not willing to engage with each other, but at times, if there is an engagement from the residents and the business wants to be a good neighbor to their neighbors. Spectrum, who's going to be in that building, doesn't want to have a bad reputation amongst their neighbors who are business clients that they're also trying to get to use their services. Benchmark, being a neighbor, same thing. If they hear something coming in from a joint ask of the school and the residents on their behalf, there may be a different feeling of there, because Benchmark and Spectrum at this point, they're just thinking that the school is a pest asking for a problem that's not theirs, not realizing that there's the pressure that Sacred Heart is under from the residents in the neighborhood. Just bringing that up, if that's an action that the residents could potentially work with Sacred Heart on a joint ask. If there is the homeowners association group of residents that are here this evening, just looking for a creative solution to get another party engaged in that conversation with the tenant in the building and the building owner itself. Just throwing that out there as a suggestion.
That's cool. Should we ask that if, like,
There's only 20 houses being affected.
It's still the ask of it's a different approach. It's a way that the business, the landowner, coming from the residents, because the next thing that I can guarantee you will do, as that building is filled up, if that building starts to have overflow parking from their employees onto your street, you're going to be here again with them. So you can start bringing that to their attention, that you are an active group of residents in the neighborhood, that they have to be a friendly neighbor to you as well. Just offering that as a suggestion as another way to approach the situation. Not saying you have to do it, I'm just offering that up from sitting here, and some things that we've seen when we get the business owners and everybody together in this room, people start to work together when they see all sides of the issue. So, all right, I'm just offering that out there as another approach to take. So with that, the solutions that this board has based on the information that has been presented to us, the parking restriction, the parking lots that are there, there is not additional space for parking. Everybody has the right to park on the street unless there is a parking restriction that is put in place. So our solution to this problem that you have is to put more parking restrictions in place, which is everybody that's in this room, I don't think you want additional parking restrictions. So as we hear that there's issues with people blocking the driveway, we hear that there's garbage collection not being picked up. If it was not related to the school and the problems where that issue is potentially coming from, the action that this board would take would be to install or go to the town board asking for parking restrictions to be put in place to prevent the parking. Which if we do that, the 20 residents that live on those streets, you've already indicated and stated that you don't want the parking removed because you yourselves use that street for parking outside of school hours and other times of day, right? So we're limited as well as to what we can do. So as we start having the conversation, our conversation up here, the solution to this problem, if it can't be found by a joint parking agreement with the property owners that are there, busing students in from another area, a shuttle bus of some kind, if that's done, that's again on the property owners. Residents and people in the community, whether they're going to the school, whether they are taxpayers in the town, if they're from another town coming to use it, if there's not a sign there that says no parking, they're permitted to park on the street. So our action to solve the problem is the installation of no parking signs and further reducing the parking in the area. If there's areas that are out there on the bend and the turn that are safety concerns that are being brought to the attention, we are a traffic safety board, so our issue here is to address those. That's what we're here to do, which would be to install no parking restrictions in those areas where those safety concerns are. So I just want to point that out as we have the conversation up here as the board, that that's where we are. That, those are things that we can take under consideration, but as we are doing this, that is the power that this board has, is to refer parking restrictions on the street where people are parking, which is going to have an impact on the residents that live there as well. So I just want to point that out as we do this, that we can install additional no parking signs in the area, but that probably is not going to be what anybody in this room is looking for in installing no parking, because that means that the residents can't park there either. So with that, I'll open it up to the board here for further conversation.
Can I ask Sacred Heart, keeping in mind what you said about green space and being very conscientious of keeping what you want to maintain a Franciscan value, is there any opportunity to get more parking while keeping that balance? Is there, and how many spaces would that look like to you as a compromise? Is that, are there any of the areas of that building with the Claire Music Center and the People Inc.? If you were to look at that a little differently, not eliminate it, that's not what I'm saying, but what would you think that you would gain at the most? Or are you maxed out parking in those areas?
Jennifer, can you just come up to the microphone? Thanks. There's probably going to be more questions.
We're maxed out at Claire Music Hall. We had initially put in a proposal that would have had parking kind of perpendicular to, the first plan just looked different, and the town, and we lost, I don't know, maybe, how many spots then, Chip? Maybe 10 spots? So we had perpendicular parking along the fence where our first neighbor on Maynard was, and there was a setback issue there. So we had a design that maximized parking in a way that we would have liked. We would.
Consistent with the town's design standards. So, for instance, I mean, could you physically park more cars on Claire? Physically, yes, but not consistent with the town's design standards that was approved, the approved plan for these lots. Their islands are required there. And in terms of, and in terms of the front of the building, the town also doesn't allow for front-loaded parking there. So those two lots, the reason why those will be able to maintain the way they are is because they're existing. If the school were actually to take those buildings down even and do something and redo those parking lots, you wouldn't necessarily gain any parking to comply with the design standards because you would have to have islands and things like that that currently are not there. So, and again, to reiterate what Jennifer said earlier, I mean, believe me, the school was not looking for this problem, and it wasn't looking to lose that parking that it had on that property, but it's private property. They had every right to terminate that agreement. The school did everything they could to have them not terminate that agreement, but it's their property, and they did what they felt they needed to do. The school was certainly not looking to spend $1.5 million to acquire a new property and build a new parking lot. So, you know, these are all things that the school did everything that it could possibly do to make sure that it wasn't losing any parking or as little as possible from what it had previously provided. And that's why they hired a consultant that was fully vetted through the town in terms of establishing what the parking demand was, and paved over as much of that the school campus as they could to provide that parking in conjunction with acquiring the People Inc. lot to
Are there
do
any
that.
plans for the People building itself?
Oh, this is being recorded. We bought it for the parking lot, and we're excited to incorporate it back into our own campus.
Okay, 'cause I got a couple ideas. What happens, this is radical. What happens if you turn the roof of the People building into a parking lot?
The roof of?
Yeah.
We don't have, I'm sorry. You heard that our entire budget is $6 million annually. I don't.
Okay, so maybe it's not, I'm thinking
Yeah,
of a
I
solution,
like your
okay?
creativity. We get along really well in different contexts, but we really broke the budget with the presentation of a 6-month solution to a.
Can you knock out one of the walls of the People building and turn it into a parking garage?
It'd be structural.
No.
But that People Inc. lot is maxed out based on what you.
Yes, that's what our neighbor was complaining about. We have numbered spots. There's 155 spots. I'm sorry, there's 55 spots in there, and each of those is assigned to a faculty or staff member. There's 23 spots in the Claire lot and 55 spots in the rear lot that was created, for a total of 127 spots. Of those, 125 have been assigned out, and we have the 2 spots that are remaining.
And what's your junior class? Thinking that 16-year-olds are hitting it junior year.
So
What?
the junior class is smaller than this year's senior class. So our senior class is our largest class.
So we're talking about accommodating between 10 and 20 cars, depending on who's doing the counting. So we need to find a place for 10 to 20 cars. Do we agree? Is that the problem?
I don't think it's a problem to have students park on Maynard. I think that, well, if I could speak for a second, I think the problem is having that many students park on Maynard. So I think if you could eliminate 5 or 6 in that flow, it would break things up. That's why I had made the suggestion, and it doesn't have to be a good one, to have parking on both sides, and you wouldn't have that solid line of traffic.
I could also,
How many people used to park on Maynard before you lost the parking at Benchmark?
None.
4 or 5, it wasn't a problem. Now we have between 10 and 20, depending who's doing the counting. 16, all right, someone's on account. So, okay, so something has changed here. What we have here is a problem, something has changed. And we need to adapt to this change somehow.
So we know,
That's where all the girls used to park.
we know
I'm an alumni.
what has
That's where I
changed.
parked.
We know at this point what has changed. We know that Sacred Heart has acquired property to try and solve the problem, but there's still not enough property to address all the parking. We now have the residents' concerns of the parking situation in front of their houses, so we have other people for other agendas here in this items. We can talk about this one till 11 o'clock tonight. I personally want to go home tonight. So with that, I'm going to ask the board here the actions that are before us to put parking restrictions in place. Is anyone in favor of additional parking restrictions in the area to address the residents' concerns?
No one wins.
It sounds to me that the school has done what they could to maximize the parking. They've provided passes to the seniors to park there, and if there are other students that they have not given passes to that are parking in the neighborhood, just like the chairman said, there's nothing that we can do to prevent people from parking there. The only tool that this board has in our toolbox is to restrict parking on Maynard. I personally would be in favor of restricting parking from a safety perspective. So we've heard the residents talk about how it's difficult to see around the curve because people are parking so close to Crosby, how it's difficult to see down the hill because there are so many cars there. I would be in support of putting in parking restrictions to address those safety concerns upon an evaluation based on site distance to what those should be. Other than that, you're restricting, we heard the one gentleman say he doesn't want to have to walk 5 or 6 houses or a quarter mile, whatever it is, to get to his house. So that would be an impediment on the residents. But as far as a full-blown restriction, I would not be in support of that. The timing, changing the time of day, putting a time of day restriction on that, we have done that in other areas. I think that would be further thought or discussion on this board as far as what those restrictions may or may not want to be. Do we want to make it so it's impossible for the students to park there so that it's open to residents? Do we want to make it so that when garbage pickup comes, that the pickup can happen? We already have restrictions in place for winter parking and snow emergencies. So the plowing hopefully wouldn't be an issue, but then you might get illegal parkers. So I think what we really want is not to necessarily restrict parking, but to make it better parking, safer parking. Don't park so close to the driveways. Don't have bumper-to-bumper type parking. And beyond putting restrictions, and I don't know how we can personally control that, as these are young drivers.
So at this point, Chris, the parking is restricted on the eastern side.
Yeah.
Do we, I would like to follow Jennifer's recommendation here to get some, we're talking about a hill, potential site distance issues, to have someone provide this board some information as to what those site distances are around the curve, going up and down the hill, where we should potentially look at parking restrictions, looking at the number of houses that are on the east side of the road versus the west side of the road, the distance between the driveways. Would it make sense to flip the no parking restriction from the east side to the west side? Would it provide additional parking spaces by flipping it on the side of the road? Those are things that we have. I don't think we're in a position tonight to make a decision to put any parking restrictions in place without more data on this particular street and regarding the issue, but I would move, I'm not in favor of additional parking restrictions because it would go before the town board, and I think we have resident opposition to that, but if it's a safety issue around curves, around bends, site distance, then I would be in favor of installing those parking restrictions in those places where it's warranted to make it a safer street. But until we know that information from getting somebody out there to get measurements and provide a parking plan to us on the street based on what's available to us, I would not move forward with any action at this point for installation of further parking restrictions based on assumptions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have the traffic study for this project dated June 15th, received by the Planning Department on the 16th of June, and I attended the meeting of this board on the 4th of June. So I never saw this. I got it 4 months late. Okay. So I looked at it, I said, well, this is interesting. If you take a look at page 4, there's a deficit of 10 parking spots. And it's mentioned in this report, the number was wrong, and it's corrected to 10. Okay? So maybe we need the engineers that put this together to go back and take a look at Maynard Drive and see what they would recommend for switching the parking from one side to the other or restricting it a few hours. One way, let them do it. I don't think it's the town's problem.
Well,
This was a problem that was built in this thing when you broke ground.
I respectfully, I disagree with your reading of that document, that the demand
got
it was submitted to the town. Look, we went through the town approval process.
This board doesn't meet in July, okay?
I don't know what to tell you about that, okay? We submitted this pursuant to instructions we received from the town. But my point is that the demand analysis that was generated here was 117. We're providing more than the demand analysis actually required. The conservative number in there is 131. And again, we could have, we tried to get that number of spots in there, but we had to design to the town's design standards. We could not, we would have lost spots on Clare and on the People Inc. property if we had to redo those lots because of the design standards that the town requires. This is the maximal parking that you can get on these properties.
Okay, I drove through the whole place on Saturday afternoon. Saw one car parked. It's parked on the road. I drove through it Monday morning about 10, 11 o'clock. Drove through the whole thing again. There was enough empty parking spots to take all the traffic parked on Maynard and park it in on your...
I'm sorry, I'm not sure, where are you talking about?
I'm talking about your campus. I drove through it on Monday morning about 10 or 11 o'clock. Okay. Saw several...
Sir, with all due respect, I am confident that if I gave you my absentee list and I gave you the assignment of each and every spot, I'm not holding back. Every spot has been assigned. Now, if a student can't come to school one day because she's sick, her spot's going to be open. The other process would be chaos. So it would be a race for every spot, and then the kids would park on Maynard first because that would be obvious that that's where they could park. So again, maybe there's more than one way to address this problem. It has been addressed very systematically with a lot of thought and a lot of concern. If there was a spot open, I'm not hiding spots.
Jennifer?
Chris has the floor. Excuse me, Chris.
Sir, the public comment period's closed.
The public comment period is closed. Okay. At this point, the public comment period is closed. If we have to ask you again, we're going to ask you to leave. And we have a police officer here that will escort you out. The public comment period is closed. We're trying to conduct a meeting here.
So,
The choice is yours. It is not. It is a public. It is not an open discussion. The public comment period has been closed. It is now the town representatives a part of this. The choice is yours. We can stop this conversation now, or we can ask you to leave.
so Jennifer, if I could continue this, do you bus every student? Does every student have the ability to bus?
No, not every student has the ability to bus. Only 15 miles out receives busing. So really, the girls that are driving primarily are girls that are juniors who are outside of our busing zone.
Okay, because my solution is what Damon did, which is disallow their freshmen to bring a car to campus who dorm there. So can you disallow your juniors, who are primarily the problem, to bringing a vehicle to campus or surrounding the campus?
Well, if I could address that first part, yes, and we do. The second part, no, we can't. We cannot prevent anybody licensed driver from parking on a public street. You can. We don't take a position on that. Okay, we are not trying to use Maynard as our parking lot. We provided as much parking as we possibly could. What happens on the public street, we have no control over, and we don't have a position on. We want Maynard to be safe. We want the surroundings of the campus to be safe. We think this board should do what it thinks it needs to do to ensure safety on Maynard. We are not encouraging our students to park on Maynard or anywhere else. They're not allowed to drive to school, but we can't stop them from driving around the town of Amherst. We don't have that ability.
I make a motion to follow Jennifer and the chairman's course of action to get site distance calculations.
You can second. Well, you made a motion? Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second for Greg's motion?
I'll second.
So we have a motion from a member on the board right now to refer the issue, and a second, to refer this issue to engineering, to provide us with site distance information on the street, and to basically draft up a parking restriction for Maynard Drive to address the safety concerns that have been brought forward. With that, we have a second from Jennifer for that.
And to look at whether switching the sides might provide more parking.
So that would be all under the engineering department in the town to review the street regarding the parking situation on the street, regarding site distance, where the parking restrictions currently exist, if there's a better plan of where to put them, and then bring that information back to us when it is available, whether that be the December meeting or the January meeting, depending on how long it takes them to provide that. Any further comment from this board on that item?
Just understand, when it does come back, procedurally, when you're considering a parking restriction, everyone who is impacted by the parking restriction is invited. So everyone in your neighborhood will be invited who may be impacted.
So with that, is there any further conversation from anybody on this board?
The board is doing what you asked. We're asking the people who are engineers that know how to look at things, to put a restriction into place. We're asking them to review your request, so.
So with that, all in favor of the motion before us?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 0, so motion's carried 6-0. So at this point, what we'll do on this agenda item is we would first of all ask the residents to continue the dialogue with the school to reach out, continue to talk to the neighbor that is potentially involved with the parking to see if anything solution can come up with there over the course of time while we're addressing this. The action will also go before the engineers that are the professionals to review the street, to provide areas of recommendation for parking restrictions to make the street safer, parking restrictions around the bend, around the curve, addressing the hill on the street, and refer that back to this board. Once we have that plan before us and that information, we can then take action as to where we would install parking restrictions or adjust parking restrictions on Maynard Drive to refer to the town board to take the action. While that's going on, I encourage everyone that's in the room for this item to continue to talk to each other and see if a solution can be made so that we don't have to take drastic action and restrict parking completely on Maynard Drive. So with that, we'll close the agenda item number 2 today and move on to the next item on our agenda. The next people that we have signed in this evening are for agenda number 5, which is Ayer, Klein, and Knollwood intersection. Yes, it is. We'll go from yours to mine.
Eric, I didn't hear the agenda item. Is this Knollwood?
Knollwood,
Fine. Thank you, Jim.
One guy. You're mic'd.
Go on.
Sorry.
Did we approve a site plan for?
Yeah, this board doesn't review parking.
Not this traffic. You don't even
That's not a traffic. That's a parking analysis. This board doesn't review parking analysis.
Good evening.
We don't.
Look at it.
We can comment on it, but we don't.
Did we comment on this one?
No, I don't think we knew that.
Okay, so with that, we are on agenda item number 5, which is Ayer, Klein, and Knollwood intersection. With that, Chris will give us some information before we open it up to public comment. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So this is in reference to the intersection of Ayer, Klein, and Knollwood, and specifically the number of crashes and vehicle intrusion that has occurred on the north side with vehicles who are either failing to negotiate or getting into an accident that causes damage on that north side. There's been some property damage recorded. Inside your package, you have evidence of some of those accidents on record. We have, of the 5 vehicle crashes reported in the past 3 years, 2 of them were related to vehicles that I'll just show you briefly, that essentially went into that area. This is one of them. And this is another one. So the residents have approached the town and asked that some sort of barrier or some other type of control be there that would prevent any type of vehicles from causing property damage. Therefore, we took a look at this closer, and just going over the information on Klein Road itself, it carries 10,000 vehicles per day, recorded back in 2020. The speeds, as in that same count, is an 85th percentile speed of 42 miles per hour. It is stopped with a stop sign on the air leg on the south side only. Let's see here. We do have a turning movement count, but I'm not going to dive into that unless you need to. There is evidence of a guide rail that was once there. This is an aerial. I was looking through aerials and trying to find that guide rail. This is 2002. There is some more recent ones, 2009, that actually had it as well. We think that guide rail came down as part of utility work in that area. And you can see evidence of that guide rail with the remaining guide rail post that was left there, just randomly still present in that location. It is always easier to reestablish guide rail than to install new guide rail. Normally, we try to meet the criteria for new guide rail when a new request comes, but it is a little bit easier to reestablish that. And then finally, I think that's all I have. Yeah, I think that's it. Sure. So this is an offset intersection. The last time this came before the board, it was related to this being an offset intersection and the problems that can create. At that time, the Traffic Safety Board said it would be best if this intersection was realigned to make Air and Knollwood connect, either through this house or more realistically through the Canterbury site, and making that line up. With that, I'll turn it back over to the board.
Okay, we'll open it up for public comment, and I believe we have Mr.
Rifkin, thank you. My name's Noah Rifkin. I live at 125 Briar Hill Road and have lived there since 1996. I'm also the head of the Homeowners Association for Woodstream Farms, which is the neighborhood located on the north end of that. We have been going around and round on this for many, many years, and since I've lived there in 96, I have seen countless accidents there, many of which are reported, most of which are not. During the winter, there are significant numbers of run off the road, unwitnessed crashes that cause property damage in that area. When my children learned to drive, I forbade them from driving out of that intersection because it's such a dangerous intersection. And being offset, having lack of control, and the speeds at which people drive on Air Road, and the blind intersection coming off of Knollwood, because people pass on the right, on the shoulder constantly, going in both directions, in order to, if anybody's turning right or turning left and blocking their way. As I said, the speeds are consistently higher than they should be, and the mix of traffic has gotten increasingly significant in terms of trucks, delivery vehicles, and just overall load, given the number of houses, which if you back out, you'll see along Air Road that used to be completely empty. And now we have Canterbury Woods there, which has a significant number of senior citizen drivers who, with all due respect, are not necessarily as adroit as some other drivers. And then we have an entire block of residential houses there that have been assembled, loading up the traffic on a 2-lane road that's going all the way from Main Street down. I'm sorry, from Sheridan down. And it has become, it's just become excessively dangerous. And at a minimum, I realize I'm pointing out a lot of issues. At a minimum, what we would like to see is the reconstruction of that barrier to protect our property and our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. I don't see, is Nancy here to speak on this item? No. Are you here to speak on this item?
The spouse.
I think my pal did a good job.
Can you just state your name and address?
Richard Lead.
Okay.
If I would just emphasize something Noah already said, for every reported accident, there are a couple of non-reported accidents. I've been there for about 50 years living in that neighborhood. And I've seen quite a few near misses in that property. There's one, what I would call an I-beam stanchion, which is very sturdy and very good, but it would probably be serve the people who live at 5 Knollwood if another one or two of them were added to that area to stop cars from coming through. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience this evening to speak on the item? None being heard or seen, we'll close the public comment period. Open it up to the board for conversation. I will just start off the conversation here because I too live in that area. I'm very familiar with that intersection and that area. My first recommendation here would be to Councilmember Zucala, if there's any way for the town to work with Canterbury Woods and acquire through the right-of-way and the acquisition of that corner of the property to realign Air Road with Knollwood. That is the solution to the problem. The offset intersection there is the problem without a doubt. I am not opposed to the guide rail being placed in there for the cars to go into it, but basically once that goes in, it's going to be replaced multiple times by the town because it's going to continue to get hit.
That's the recommendation of this board. I will take it to the supervisor.
Okay. So
I do have that video if you want to see it.
yeah, so Chris does have a video as well from when we reviewed this last time that I reminded him of. This is a video of the intersection that was caught on accident.
So keep an eye on this vehicle coming out of Knollwood. You're looking north. So that movement right there, trying to make that unaligned turn, slow down this vehicle, which in turn slow down this vehicle. And if everyone caught that, got rear-ended.
And you just had this video, and you just...
Yeah, we were doing a traffic count at the time, and we just happened to catch this. And then all the kids sit up and start looking.
Chris, what are the requirements for putting making this a signalized intersection?
You're not going to meet the criteria. You'd be better off trying to align it and then going for an all-way stop. But I don't believe you're going to meet the volume warrants for a signal at that location.
The reason I asked the question, it'd be an excellent application smart signal, where you could let one leg go at a time, keep the other two on red.
Right.
And there is an example intersection like this in Cheektowaga, about one block. It's on Dick Road, about one block this side of Walden Avenue. It's North Creek and Dick Road. Same thing, misaligned.
Yeah, we have them in Snyder, like Berryman, and there's a couple misaligned that are handled that way. Yeah, they are awkward, and they add additional delay. Like this one is Berryman and Gettsville is signalized in that way. State, yeah. I feel like there's another one.
So when this item was brought up before, that's what led to Chris going out there and getting the counts, which then led to that video coming back to us while they were getting the counts of the accident that occurred while they were trying to get them. I believe at that time, our recommendation is still trying to find a solution to, I think one of the things that was discussed at that time was the potential of a roundabout, or somehow trying to realign or to align the intersection into a true intersection, because that movement that you just saw there is a very common movement at that intersection. The other problem that you have is that what ends up happening if Chris went back down to that to the street view where that post is positioned, when there is a car that is on Klein Road that is like that car right there looking to make the left, there's plenty of room on that shoulder. You can see the cars driving over the grass on that end. So what ends up happening as well is that car is stopped to make the left. The car that's at Knollwood now thinks that he or she can make the left-hand turn out, while the next car comes flying around that car right up that edge. So you need to do something to choke down the entire area so the cars can't pass on the shoulder, need to align the intersection. The guide rail, if it was there, I would be in favor of reinstalling that based on what we're seeing, what the ask was, and the fact that one of them was already there. If it wasn't utility work that caused that to be taken down and not reinstalled, there was probably an accident there that took it down and it just never got reinstalled after an accident. We don't know why it's not there anymore, but we know that there was one there at one point. So we can, I don't know, Chris, that would be a highway department to reinstall. Does that need town board action to reinstall, or is that highway to do?
No, you'd have to make a recommendation to the highway superintendent, and then it would be up to him to determine if he's comfortable reinstalling it without a study.
Okay.
A new study. I mean, it was there before. Maybe they have records of where it was, and then can reinstall it.
So I will make a motion to recommend to the highway superintendent for the reinstallation of the guide rail that existed at said intersection, since there's evidence that it existed before, for the reinstallation.
Second.
So there's a motion by me, a second from Greg. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that motion carries 6-0. So at this point, we'll refer that over to Highway Department, since there is evidence of an existing guide rail in that area, requesting that they look into reinstalling that guide rail. And then I'm also going to make a motion to refer to the town board to determine if there is capital means or an ability to work through eminent domain or through right-of-way acquisition or whatever it would be, to work with Canterbury Woods to acquire a clip of that corner, to allow for the realignment of the intersection of Knoll and Ayer Road and Klein Road. So there's a second motion by me and a second by Kevin. Further conversation?
Turn on the microphone.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So we have those two motions now, so you're aware, we're asking the highway department, as we've already stated, to reinstall it. We're also asking the town board to explore the possibility of a
just as a
acquisition to realign that, however that would work with Canterbury Woods, if that could be done, to start dialogue with them. Don't know the cost of that, don't know anything about it, that's just conversation that has to start someplace. And with that, I'll open it up further conversation of the board, if there is.
If I just may I respectfully make one quick comment?
One quick comment, sure.
We have had extensive conversations because we rebuilt at our expense the entryway there, and reinforced all the concrete as a result of the crashes to make it more durable against snow plows, et cetera, et cetera. So
I saw you doing that this summer.
the highway department is they're very aware of the situation.
Okay.
I'm sorry? Right. Exactly. Yep.
Any further conversation on this item? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. None being heard, we'll close item number 5, and we will move to the next item that we have individuals signed in for, which I believe is item number 1, which is Heim Road, Mont Bleu, South Wedge, Shimwood area, safety concerns related to overflow parking from the ISNF Mosque.
Hey, Chairman, I didn't keep a copy of those bullet points that the resident provided. Do you want to read them into the file, and that would kind of explain what the request is?
You want me to read this in now?
Yeah, just you want to just go over the resident request based on that, just to put it into record.
Okay, so the resident here,
Yeah, so the resident who requested this couldn't make it tonight. He is streaming it online, so he's asked that we just read into record some bullet points as part of his request that was in the package.
okay, so here are some points for the meeting. Our neighborhood becomes a parking lot every time they use the mosque. They have outgrown their space and should be relocated to a site that has sufficient off-street parking. They jeopardize the health and safety of the residents. They have total disregard for our property and rules. The chaos created by them negatively affects our property values. The distance from Shimwood to the Heim Dodge intersection is 0.5 miles. The average car length is 15 feet. That conservatively equates to 170 vehicles parked on Heim, in addition to infiltrating Mount Blue, Fairwoods, South Wedge, and now Shimwood. In fact, they park on both sides of Fairwood, making it a single-lane road, very dangerous for anyone trying to use that road. This has been going on for at least 10 years and gets worse every week. No other church, temple, synagogue, etc. in the town does this. All have sufficient off-street parking. Why are they the exception? The town will lose tax revenue from the lots on Fairwoods because nobody will want to live there when they see the total disrespect the participants have for our community and neighborhood. How can I view the recorded meeting? But I'm very interested in seeing it. Thanks, Steve Ingram. So with that, Chris, you have more information on the agenda item.
So yeah, before you open up to the public, I just want to go over what you have previously recommended, what the town board has ultimately approved in this area in terms of signage. So I forget when. It was 2019, it looks like. This was first visited after some of the members of the mosque were present at that time and were part of that communication. And parking restrictions were placed on Heim Road and part of Mont Bleu. I'm just going to jump to that real quick. So essentially it's right here from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Fridays only. Those areas indicated in red have been approved by the town board as a no parking zone during those hours. Oh, what is going on? Sorry, everybody. How about now? So here's the parking restriction on Heim, on the I guess the west/north side, as well as the north side of Mont Bleu. Those are signed, like I said, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Fridays only. Now that was approved and signed. And then as a follow-up, you guys had traffic concerns on Fairwoods. That is a new subdivision extension just north of the mosque. And you recommended that additional parking restrictions be placed. And you asked for those same hours, 11 to 5 on Fridays only, for that section identified as number 2 on the screen. That ultimately went to the town board, but they did not approve that section. They only approved 3 and an alteration of number 1, keeping it to just the corner. So that recommendation was not followed through. That kind of sums it up in a nutshell in terms of what's out there. The police department has done significant amount of ticketing and warning out there during those times for people who are parking illegally. And we invited both the resident and representatives from the mosque to attend tonight.
Okay.
Oh, I guess also what's new is this parking area back here was added as after that 2019 review. And now they have something else in the works that we can talk about. Would you like to talk about that now or later?
Why don't we open it up to, why don't we talk about it now? So there is additional parking being proposed, correct?
Yes.
So
So
just
Tom has
get that
provided
now.
me with a site plan. It is an approved site plan. Oh, now my bearings are all messed up. So north is now, well, here's Heim, okay? You're going to have to orient yourself. So the new parking area, is it right here? So it would essentially be on the side here.
And how many spots does that add?
You guys working on it now, right? I saw both those out there. Are you guys working on it now? Yes. Yeah.
You want to?
Okay. Okay, so with that, open it up the public comment period, and I believe the first person signed in on this item that wishes to speak. Well, you're coming up, so you have multiple signed in here, but most are circled as no. So
My name is Shahid Ahmed. I'm an engineer by profession, and I have been working trying to expand the parking lot for the last 4 years. So I'll give you the update on it.
just for the record here, you're at 59 Ambrose Court?
That's correct.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. So to say that it was a problem from 10 years is totally erroneous. I want to counter that because 10 years ago we didn't have this building. We just expanded it in 2019 and 2020. We added 57 parking on the back of it. This is additional 54. We wanted to add more on this side, but the town building department and planning department is not willing to do it because it will be too close to the neighbors on the side street. So on our part, we did everything. Also, try to understand, this is not a place which is used every day of the week. Only time when people are complaining about the traffic is from 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. There was some valid complaint about that school bus trying to turn. I was here at the last meeting, which was in 2019, and I think the town did the right thing to just allow parking on one side. This allows the school bus to turn around. Now, in the Fairwoods, we are perfectly okay if you block one side, okay? We have a total of 213 parking now. We're adding another 54. That will be 267 parking. Okay. So not only that, we just added another prayer. Normally it used to be one prayer. About, say, 6 months ago, we have 2 prayers now. So not too many people come in, but at least another 50 or 60 coming in at our 2:30 to 3 p.m. prayer. We'll continue to do that. We'll continue to have 2 prayers, reduce the number of people. When we're trying to expand the building at that time, we requested from the town's building department, planning department, that we have one exit and one entrance. As all the churches on Dodge and Hopkins, anything nearby us has it. But somehow we were told that Erie County Highway Departments own the Heim Road and they will not allow it. Okay? So that causes some amount of traffic safety problem. Because if it was one entrance and then one side getting out, it will be much faster to get in and get out. So we are doing whatever we can to reduce parking on the roads. And it is, at times we have vacant spaces inside, but people like to park outside. And it's a public road, we cannot stop anybody, we have no authority. But whatever restrictions you have, if police goes around and ticket them, we are more than welcome it. So on our part, we did whatever we can. We spent a good amount of money on expanding those parking lot. This 54 will be ready by the end of this month. The subgrade is already there. All asphalt is going to go as the weather gets a little better for a few days. And we have also, come on in. To manage the parking, we have a security company who comes every day on Friday at 1:30. It stays there, the three of you come in and make sure the parking on the road is also done properly, at least close to the building, and properly get them out, because as I said, with one entrance and same exit, it gets difficult.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Mario Rodriguez. I'm with Versetti Protection Group here in Buffalo. I'm signed in on the sheet there as well. I prepared a couple notes on behalf of the rest of the board members who are here. The president, past presidents, last two past presidents, and the vice president are here, along with Shahid, who just mentioned he's here as well. First, we understand the complaint from the resident and appreciate his concern for the traffic safety overflow. I want to first start with reassuring the board of our commitment, not only from the ISNF, but as their security partner here. The safety measures that we've put into place since 2019 in the board hearing at that point, we've added additional staff that has additional safety and training from former law enforcement and utilize those team members with their skill sets on our team to be part of that solution. We've added additional security cameras. Obviously, it's not a big safety for traffic component, but it's something that with the times, it's something that we're looking at and trying to manage and monitor. In addition to that, the communication efforts on behalf of the board consistently has increased. Specifically, they put a bulletin out every week that goes out talking about parking restrictions, reminding the parking is not to be on the far side of Heim Road, also Mont Bleu, and also to be community partners. In addition to that community bulletin, the president also makes a statement and announcement prior to prayer, during prayer, and then immediately after. Making an announcement over the public announce system internally, but then also personally talking to members as they're coming in and out of the organization to highlight the efforts that they're trying to make, again, to be good community partners. As Shahid mentioned, the parking solutions, the board has approved additional 54 spots. They're going to be up at about 264, right?
267.
267 total. So by the end of October, we'll be at 267 total. Sorry, November. We forgot we're in November.
We're in November.
So we'll be at 267 by the end of the month. At that point, and to acknowledge the complaint from the member, the 267 does exceed what typically comes every week. However, as this board has heard in the complaint against Sacred Heart, it is a public parking on the street at that point. They're allowed to park on the street on the right-hand side if we're actually facing Heim Road towards the mosque, which they all abide by. And I can assure you our team goes out there consistently. We have put parking cones on the opposite side to prevent that parking on that side. Consistently have team members acknowledging and even walking down the Mont Bleu, telling them they can't park at that corner, making sure the buses can get down, which was a major complaint at that point, making sure snowplows can get down at that point, and something that we had to make sure that we put our efforts in from our standpoint as a partner with the mosque. There has been discussions about doing a valet service or a shuttle service, but at this point it's not practical. It's not a solution that we can have that's a viable option, but it is being considered and has been talked about at the board meetings. So just something that, again, we're trying to have collaborative efforts here. One of the other aspects that was highlighted from the board already, I think Chris mentioned it, I'm not sure, but the town police department has been out consistently helping us to try to reinforce what the expectations are of all the members coming to the mosque, making sure that they're parked on the right side, being community partners, and making sure that they're not causing a headache for the other members in the community consistently. It's an effort that is, I'm going to be very honest, it's trying at weeks, but it's something that we consistently push on. The hours of operation, peak hours are 1:30 to 2:30, and by adding the second prayer, as they have done over the course of the last 6 months, it started to increase in volume for that second prayer. It reduces the amount of overflow that we do have currently, and at that point, it allows us to be able to use that second prayer time to put more cars and more vehicles in the back. We're currently just under 100 vehicles or so, roughly, for the second prayer internally, but that continues to increase weekly. So with that, I will conclude with saying the mosque and all the board members and the president and the rest of the team members here have consistently shown that they were trying to work collaboratively not only with this board, but with the police department. Being community efforts, they opened up the mosque consistently to have the community come in, have an open house, have dialogue, to make sure that they can have an understanding what concerns are theirs and making sure that they're having that dialogue so they can give back and make sure that they address them immediately, rather than having something like this come to you. And then finally, I will tell you again, as we close, one of the biggest aspects is that we continue to push and make sure that the safety and health of all these members are consistent. We've enforced that as much as we can, and through the efforts with the police department, we will continue to do so. Thank you very much for your time.
I just want to add one more thing. On the Fairwoods, I know you recommended some way of preventing parking on the where there's a curve and there's a straight path. We wouldn't mind if you block one side, all of it, because that allows the trucks and others to go by much easily. I mean, that's a suggestion, that on the Fairwood, instead of trying to block both sides, just block one side completely, just like what we have done on the Haim. And this gives you much more room for the people to come in and go out instead of getting frustrated.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else to speak on this item? Don't walk away, I got a question for you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyone else to speak or no? Let me just ask one question before we have another person speak.
Sure.
Looking at this drawing and on the map, and I'm looking at my phone here at the aerial view of the site. 735 Heim, the house.
Yes,
Is that owned by the mosque?
Yes, it's our, what do you call it? It's our priest teaches there, stays there,
Okay,
our main priest.
okay, I have a comment about that.
Okay, go ahead.
No, we'll finish the public comment and then we'll open it up to the board here. I just wanted to ask that question if that house was owned by the mosque.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rasul Khan. I live at 92 Laurel Lane, and I'm the current chairman and chairman of Council of Trustees for Islamic Society. I just want to make quick two comments here. One is during the announcements, I think we, as our Mario, our security person, was talking about, we do make sure that we have these announcements going every Friday during the prayers, and we encourage them to do the carpooling. And we have the signboards, we put the signs on the TVs, and we are encouraging from our side. I just want to let you all know. And I don't know if you have any authority or you have any recommendations to push through for another exit for us. I think if you can help us out to work with the Erie County somehow, if it can come, we would really appreciate that. And then we really want another exit that would help us out in easing the traffic coming in and going out. Please help us. Those are the simple two comments that I want to make.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name at the beginning.
My name is Rasul Khan, R-A-S-U-L.
Are you signed in?
I did not, so
Okay,
I can sign.
if you can just sign in for me, would appreciate it. Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
If I can add just one other aspect. With the synagogue, we're a very unique situation. It's not like a church or the temple for the Jewish community. We're during the week, right? So prayer on Saturday or Sunday doesn't necessarily affect traffic flow or parking as it would on Friday for us. And so as a organization, ISNF has been, again, very open to collaborative efforts and continues to be open. So just understand that from our perspective, as their partner, we're here to listen to the recommendations from what the board is going to take and offer as a solution for the community, and do our best to be a collaborative partner in that solution. So.
I have a question about the time of the prayers, 1:30 to 2:30, right?
The prayer actually starts at 2 p.m., but people start coming 15, 20, 30 minutes early. And it's a 10 to 15 minutes prayer. It doesn't last too long. Then everybody leaves.
So it'd be 1:30 to...
1:30 to 2:30 covers almost all of it.
Okay, then there's a second prayer.
Which is starting, the prayer actually is 2:45, but people start coming 10, 15 minutes early. And as of now, it's going around 50 to 100 people max. So parking space-wise, just wanted to add this, we have more parking that was required by the code.
Okay.
We insisted on it, we had a tough time getting approval for the last one, because why you're putting so much parking? And we wanted to actually continue that all the way on the grass area there, but it was not authorized because, it's get too close to the property at the back. But the neighbors, I mean, we have a multiple conversation with the neighbor on this side, as well as the west side. We put a new fence because they wanted to have some amount of privacy. One side didn't have the fence. We have a new fence here. We have a completely new fence on the other side. We have invested a good amount of money over the last 2-3 years, to make sure our neighbors are our best friends. So we had multiple meetings with them. We have visited their compound on this side, the condos. They have come to us and have a meeting with us about whatever their concerns. There were some concern about the illumination. We tried to reduce that. Okay. The new lights we have is going to be of low luminous. So we are doing whatever we can to make life better for them. And as I said, we have spent a good amount of money to alleviate this parking problem.
So that we're clear as well on that traffic component, though. So you're asking about the prayer time and specifics. Our team arrives at around 12 o'clock, typically, on most days. Sometimes we're there a little earlier, 11:45. We start setting up our team and all of our information and kind of gathering everything, the restrictions that we have for the front circle to making sure that it's for EMS and police emergency response. At that point, when everyone fills in, and we fill up every week, that has to be turned over, and all those vehicles have to exit prior to that next prayer.
That's what I'm getting at.
So let's hold on 1 second here. So at this point, is there anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, at this point, we're going to close the public comment period and open up for discussion here on the board. And that's where I'm going with this. That's why I asked the question. You'd stated in the information that was there that Heim Road is an Erie County road, so they would be the ones that need to approve the curb cut. Obviously, the property line that you have along the front of the property, there really is not room for that, for the addition of that. But why I'm bringing up, hold on 1 second. The reason why I'm bringing up, if you own the house at 735, is there is a curb cut for 735, but the garage is in the way. Has there been any consideration or conversation about eliminating the garage to turn the driveway at 735 into an additional driveway out?
Okay, the drawing we submitted, the drawing we submitted had right next to the house on this side, on the other side, yeah, right there. And it was going here. This will be entrance and that will be exit. We'll block that out. So that was not acceptable. Now, with respect to this, when it's a driveway for the house and there's a garage, the 3 cars parked there. And I'm not so sure that we, running that car next to where his driveway is, we as little kids, they want to put everybody in risk when somebody is driving and trying to go in. Unless we block his,
But where I'm going with this is that there's an existing curb cut for the driveway that exists on Heim Road.
Yes.
That is part of the property with a curb cut.
That is true.
So when it's been asked of Erie County when you originally did everything, did you own 735 Heim Road? Or was that a separate property?
No, it's always in the one group. It says 735, 745 Heim Road. That's how it is in the assessor office. That's how in the building department.
Because we can continue, I'm going where Dan is going here, I think. We can continue to build parking here as long as we want. The problem is people don't want to park there because after prayer service, they can't get out. So it's easier for them to get, it's easier for them to park on the street, so after after prayer is done, they can leave. They're not stuck in the parking lot for 10, 15 minutes trying to get out. If you're adding a second prayer, you're going to have more people trying to get in and out, more chaos going through one single access point. So I don't know, Chris, where I'm going with this is, can we refer a request back over to Erie County for consideration of a second curb cut, unify the site with 735, 745, come up with a design using the driveway curb cut, relocating that driveway curb cut. If it's part of the same property, if they're building parking behind it, the priest, can they access, instead of accessing direct driveway from their driveway, could they park in the parking lot behind and not have a direct driveway out so the driveway can be put in? There are currently 2 on the property, there are currently 2 means of access to the property, one of them being limited to the house alone. So there is a second curb cut that exists. It needs to be a reconfiguration of the you're not going to get a third curb cut in there with the existing driveway. If something can be done with that driveway where there is an existing curb cut to use that driveway as access to the parking for a second means of egress from the parking lot, I think that solves a lot of problems here because you are able to then get people out of the parking lot. We can put more parking restrictions all over the place. You can continue to build parking. You're telling us that you have enough parking at this point for the people that are attending your prayer, but they're not using it. The police are issuing tickets. People don't care. They'll pay the ticket because they want to be able to get out. So the garage is in the way. I'm sure you're spending more money on parking than it would be to knock down a garage and build a new garage. I'm just looking at that there has to be, that existing curb cut is there. We just have to figure out a way to utilize it into the site plan.
There's another curb cut right where the pond is, but I don't know how you get over the pond. There's another curb, I think it was intended for a bike path, which is supposed never built. You know, there was if you go back right there's a curb cut, you see that, right there? But I don't think it's on my property, it's somewhere.
Right, so you've got the fence around the house there from the parking lot. I know they have kids that are there, but you could install a fence on the other side next to the driveway to keep the kids out of that driveway. I just feel that there's got to be some way to use that driveway.
It would be a good option, but if that will help.
I would imagine.
You're asking Erie County for an additional, you have one there already, use it.
Yeah,
type of thing.
I would also imagine some of their resistance.
Can you got to talk into the mic, Kristen.
You can move the garage and the house.
It's easier to move the garage.
I agree, but the issue is who do we have to get permission to do that?
That's where I'm asking Chris that question because it's a reuse of an existing curb cut. They're telling you can't get another curb cut because it would add a third curb cut in there.
It would require a site plan modification, which the county can then, weigh in on. It would ultimately be up to the planning board, but even if it's a reuse of a curb cut, the county would still have some say. It does make it easier.
A reuse of a curb cut is easier than adding a new curb cut.
Yeah, and you told me it's going right here. That's really close to this one. The resistance from the Erie County might have been because of the close proximity of these two entrances. Then you have conflicting turns and some unwanted conflicts. Having it further away from the other entrance, traffic safety-wise, is a lot easier than where you previously had proposed it.
And it could even just be a way in or a way out, one way.
No, this will be just way in, and you have another one, because there we have created, because they refused, you can see there, we have created almost 2 or 3 lanes there. And we just expanded that area, and you can see one coming in and another one going out. But that doesn't work because it's the same place that everybody's trying to go.
That's your point.
Right.
And with help of my, the security people, they're trying to guide them, but it's too many cars trying to get up.
And the site plan would probably
you can
make
see-
that narrower and eliminate the way in and move the way in
Outside.
to
That's
the other one.
idea. It's coming from the right-hand side and getting out from the left hand.
And by making that narrower, it might make them more willing to grant it.
Right.
We had green spaces on both sides, we just widened it because the other solution was not available, at least try to have, going out on both turns, left and right, and then coming in. If the coming in is on the right-hand side, from there, we can make it just a left turn and right turn, it will be much easier.
Okay, Chris, did you have something there?
It's an easy job to move a house and a garage when you're moving it on your own property.
I hear you.
You're not going in the street or on anybody else's property. It's an easy job.
Okay, we'll try and hope it works, because it will help us out a lot, because we have tried as much as we can expanding parking lots and everything.
We have to make it user-friendly.
So with that-
That's what we have to do, is make it user-friendly, and it's not right now.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you very much.
yep, so thank you. The other question I have before the board here is the town board has rejected our request for the parking restriction on Fairhaven.
Fairwoods.
Fairwoods, sorry, on Fairwoods. Do we want to put that before the town board again? Or do we want to hold until, is the resident, Mr. Ingram, is he from Fairwoods?
The resident is not from Fairwoods.
Okay, so do we want to move to try to put that before the town board another time for a parking restriction? Or do we want to hold that until residents from Fairwoods themselves come to us?
Yeah, I'd rather wait till the Fairwoods folks come.
Yes.
So if we're doing, isn't parking on a street a speed measure, so why would we recommend?
Okay, I just wanted to bring that, if we wanted to take that action or if we wanted to hold on that. Hold. Okay. With that, any other comments from this board? None being heard, we'll close the item. Hopefully you guys can come up with another solution here. We're aware of the problem. Parking restrictions are already in place. It's, people don't want to park where they can park. Okay? Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much for being good neighbors. I see that you've made a real effort.
They always have been very.
And this is like expensive.
Okay, with that, we have no one else in the audience this evening. I lost my agenda. That addresses item number 1. We'll move to item number 3 on the agenda, Sierra Drive and Lynette Lane speed volume after subdivision build-out.
This is predictable, I think.
So this is part of the Mirror Woods subdivision.
It's always a pleasure to meet with that group. You know, they always have the answers. They do what they say they're
So, what item number is this? 3?
3.
Sounds like some of their
3.
parishioners are cowboys.
So
or-
Actually, it's Debbie Santiago from Simonelli has heard from some people in the development in Muir Woods stating that speeds are high and asked for a count. If you recall, we did a review of this back in March, and I provided you some traffic information. I think it's in your package. Closer to here, and the 85th percentile speed at 124 showed 31 in the northbound direction and I think 33 in the southbound. They came back and suggested that we take another count here. This is more internal, and that's in your package. And obviously, being between an intersection and the roundabout, it is significantly less speed at 25 miles per hour and 23 miles per hour. In addition, we did do a count closer to Campbell on Sierra Drive itself, and that was in this vicinity. This aerial is not up to date. There has been an additional 8 lot subdivision that was approved and built out, as far as I know, right in this section. So we placed the counter right there, and those results in the eastbound towards Campbell is 29, but oddly enough, it does raise quite a bit in the westbound direction at 38 miles per hour for 85th percentile speed, with a good 27 vehicles traveling over 40 miles per hour. Simonelli just wanted the board to re-review this, to see if there's anything that can be done to try to curb speeding in this area, and I'm bringing you the results for discussion.
Any comments?
Is this similar to what we had down on, towards Lockport? On Millersport? Running off Millersport?
Oh, dockside. No, dockside is
Much
higher than
longer.
40.
Well, straight away, though.
Yeah.
So I'll just say, at this point, from the counts that you provided there, Lynette is not an issue. They're within normal that we see in the town. They're actually below the posted speed, correct? 85th percentile speed?
Yes.
Yes. So the question becomes Sierra Drive, which is interesting that people are in a hurry to get home but not leave. What I'm gathering there. Westbound, they're coming into the neighborhood. Eastbound, they're leaving the neighborhood.
Yeah, and it could be because they're coming up to a control device, you know, a stop sign, and they're preemptively slowing down, and then here they're accelerating. You know,
Speed on Campbell, they're used to driving fast, so it doesn't feel they're going as fast.
As Sierra Drive gets built up, I think the problem's gonna
Was a developer required to stripe the
build
road?
out.
no, it's a residential roadway.
The one thing I can think about in terms of Campbell Boulevard that we could do to maybe slow people down or make, I mean, I'm going to go where I normally go and say the passing zone that exists right there. I mean, the fact that the passing zone exists through that intersection, I think is not great anyway. But in my opinion, passing zones in the town give people the sense that they are out in the country and that they can drive faster. And I think that that might lead to increased speeds on this road. Again, that's just my opinion, but I would personally think getting rid of the passing zones there would at least help to slow speeds just a little bit. I don't know if it would cause a massive reduction in speeds of people coming off Campbell, but personally, I think that would be at least something we could ask for.
Campbell's being rebuilt next year, I think. So we could ask them to stripe that as a no passing zone.
Part of the intersections, yeah.
Chris, shouldn't that already, should we refer that to New York State DOT now regardless? I didn't
Yeah.
even catch that, like,
Do anything, yeah,
you
sure.
normally wouldn't have a passing zone through an intersection, would you? That passing zone probably
no,
is established and existing prior to Sierra being built and never restriped there to,
They just paved that section? Oh, maybe that's already done. So normally they put a gap of no pavement markings at an intersection.
right, but leading up to the intersection, you would normally have the double yellow. You have a
Yeah.
blind spot, you have a
You're
blind
right.
spot there of cars potentially making a right or left, and then the
Yeah.
passing zone.
Like this is a no passing. Actually, there's no gap there either. That's private, maybe.
Unless maybe they corrected it with the paving and we just don't have the current aerial. But leading up to that, you don't have a,
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Normally you don't have a passing zone approaching an intersection.
Well, let's refer to DOT then.
Let's see this.
I don't think it like fully solves the problem, but I think
Yeah.
it is.
Well, it corrects another problem.
You guys, I'm not a fan of passing zones.
you would have no passing zone.
No passing zones anywhere in the town. Abolished.
So we can request that to DOT to remove the passing zone, but we should probably validate if their paving project this year eliminated it already, since we're looking at an old aerial. Other than that, I personally don't think Sierra is that bad from other things we've seen. I would move to receive and file.
Is that a second?
Sure.
That's a second from Kristen and from Craig.
Kristen can have that one. I stole the other one from
All in favor?
Aye.
her. Aye.
Opposed? Carried 6-0.
I have my, yeah. So, yeah, here's the, not that this is going to change your mind, but here's the 7-lot subdivision, kind of built out. Looks like they added a turn lane, maybe? Yeah, I think they did. They had to do some guide rail work there. Looks like they opened up the gap in the striping. Okay.
Okay, with that, that closes the new business section of the agenda. We've covered all the items. Any other new business to be brought before the board? None being heard, we'll close the new business. We'll move to old business. Item B, item A has already been addressed. Dodge and Hopkins intersection to request a check of MyoVision's automated traffic signal performance measures. Thanks.
I didn't spend a lot of time on this, but I did provide you some automated traffic signal performance measure outputs, specifically split failures, as well as turning movement counts, as well as volume during a typical day. I mean, you can see the red. Let me just pull it up. Red indicates a failure, a split failure, which is somebody who is unable to go through the intersection, having to wait an extra cycle. Normally, so you do see those peak at school AM probably arrival as well as PM dismissal. Generally, you try to find a spot where the red is on one movement and then the opposing movement has a lot of blue, which is available occupancy. So I'm not seeing this, just first blush, where you could maybe modify the timing. But again, I didn't spend a lot of time on this. There is the option to send this over to MyoVision to have them take a look at it and see if they can come up with a analysis as well.
So is there anything in this analysis being seen that you're seeing, Chris, that would justify the left turning arrow that's been asked for multiple times for Hopkins northbound to?
I would have to do you're saying a turn arrow?
Yeah, the turn arrow.
I would have to do a left turn criteria before answering that. And I have the data to do that if you guys want me to review that and come back to you.
I guess.
You have to take a look at the opposing volumes multiplied by the lefts, and then you know, it's got to be over like 50,000, the product of those two. It's just a criteria that you have to run through. I don't have that.
The reason why I'm asking is because when you look at Hopkins Road northbound, you see that big block of red in there, and there is no left turn arrow. So is that what is causing the stacking there, the split failures there? Is that cars stuck through the intersection that are trying to make the left that can't make it?
Right. Maybe.
It was because of Fairwoods? Why am I getting that wrong tonight?
Fairwoods.
Fairwoods. People are cutting through there, and there's been multiple requests for people before the board asking for a left turning arrow there with traffic leaving the school. That we've done counts there, but we've never justified it. But now that we have MyoVision there with better counts, better data, is it justified to add that to stop the cut-through traffic? Would it stop the cut-through traffic? We don't know. But if we improve the efficiency of that intersection, does that help to reduce the cut-through traffic on Fairwoods?
We could do that if you want to hold it, and we can come back to you.
Yeah, I'd like to, I think, I don't know if we can, if we sent it to MyoVision for analysis, does that?
No, I wouldn't do that. I would just do the left turn criteria in-house.
All right, so maybe we do the left turn analysis first, and then if that doesn't warrant any changes, then
Yeah.
send it to MyoVision for
Good idea.
review. All in favor?
Aye.
6-0, thank you.
Did you think of the town and?
Item C, new road is being held until county plans are provided. Item D, we have Prestonwood and Casey, request for the,
If you recall, a couple meetings ago, there was a resident request to supplement this mid-block crosswalk that was installed as part of the Casey Road pedestrian project to have it outfitted with a rectangular rapid flashing beacon or other traffic control that would assist pedestrians to cross safely there. You had asked that the engineer department go and do a pedestrian count. We did do that in fairly decent weather. And we're coming up with one person crossing. It was not me.
Is that the person doing the count?
So it was, it's between 7 and 9, there were 0. And then, and you can see, I think it was like 70 degrees that day. 65 and sunny. 1 pedestrian during the 2:30 to 4:30, 2-hour period. So when you take that data and then put it into the RFB criteria that DOT has suggested, it fails.
So I would move to receive and file this item because the other action would be that the mid-block crosswalk itself probably isn't even justified. We could remove that completely based on that pedestrian count, but I'll just remove to receive and file based on the pedestrian count that the RFB is not warranted.
The reason that the resident is, my house is right, you can see my house on the picture right there. Problem is, nobody really identifies that that's a crosswalk, and so count, I'm sure, was affected because really, cars, there's no awareness that that's a crosswalk, and that's what his main concern is, and I don't know how to solve that. He's not wrong that it isn't observed. You know, people fly through there, so I don't know what the solution is, but there is a concern because nobody observes that crosswalk, whether there's somebody waiting to cross or not. So,
But there is signage, right? Advanced signage with the pedestrian signal, or pedestrian.
yeah, so that there's,
figure.
like, I don't know the solution because
There-
people don't observe it. So, I mean,
There's too much signage, isn't there?
it almost might be,
There's
The ones that I like are the ones that have the arrow pointing down that show the pedestrian, there's an arrow.
yeah,
There's one of those.
You
Real
almost
simple.
don't even look at, I can't explain it, the way it's overlooked. A lot of cars really race down that stretch. And then they're stopped at the stop sign at Paradise and Casey. But they, pick up speed from Young's down Casey, and they just fly down there. And they're more aware as you're going towards the other direction, towards the school. So it is a problem, but I don't know what the solution is because you're not going to have people crossing there because
So, yeah.
nobody really.
We've got crossing assembly sign ahead, then we've got a state law, you must yield to pedestrians, and then we've got the crossing assembly sign with arrow right at the crosswalk. So there's 3 signs related to the crosswalk.
I personally I've looked at this area I think when you go to the other side of the street, if you're to the west of Young's Road, when you're approaching the curve, I personally think there is sign fatigue in that stretch of road that you just ignore the signs because there's so many of them. Everywhere you look, there's a sign.
You have to use 5-14?
State law.
That's the head.
No, you don't.
You've got bike lane signs, you've got
don't think so.
crosswalk signs, you've got street signs, you've got speed limit signs. You name the sign, it's in that stretch of road.
I just don't know what a few lights is going to do in terms
Ones
of.
I see, they just have the pedestrian.
I still don't think people would stop, even if you add in the RRB.
No.
It might.
It might make people have a false sense of security and make it more dangerous for them to cross.
As a side note, if you guys think there's too much signage on this side, we are designing the other side, east of Paradise. I'd be happy to bring the plans to you guys for comment when those are prepared to avoid similar.
Got about a dozen signs at 300 feet there, right?
Yeah?
Aren't there like election laws against that many signs?
There's just a lot going on with the design that's over there with the crosswalks, the streets, the bike lanes.
Well, the thing is, they
Really
sure,
almost
The
is
no
it-
parking signs,
Yeah.
the,
Mad Magazine had a thing on this one time about too many signs.
so is there,
I agree, I don't know what you can do, but,
I mean, that's where I make my comment that based on who's crossing there, the concerns that are brought to our attention, that it's almost that the crosswalk shouldn't be there. It's the typical concerns that you have when we install a mid-block crosswalk without a controlled intersection. Well, that's what the mid-block crosswalk is. All right, so we've got a crosswalk without a controlled intersection.
Right, because there's
It's
no
what you get.
sidewalk, right, that's where you put it there, because the sidewalk is not on that side. So they
Sidewalks on the
cross-
opposite side, yes.
Cross over to get down the walk to get to Casey's middle.
But not all the streets have the crosswalk. Do they, Chris?
No.
No. Was there a reason why the ones were selected that were selected?
I think it has to do with trying to connect the Prestonwood area. We recognized that it had a lot of residential and sidewalk system already there, that, you know, we wanted to get them to the school safely.
Okay. Okay. Anyone opposed to receive and file? We will receive and file. With that, that covers all old business section. Any other old business to be brought forward? None being heard, we will close the old business, and we will thank our department liaisons for their attendance this evening. And we will move to site plans. So everybody but Tom, we'll see you next month. Tom?
This
We have another hour with you. I'm just happy that we got that done before
Eric, I
10.
think one of the first things I heard when I got on this board 9 or 10 years ago was Sheridan Drive Post Office.
I couldn't believe that. We actually got DOT to do something for us there.
Right. But this is an old item.
I did, but I like him. He's new in his position.
Who's that?
Brian Herbst.
Brian.
All right, guys.
Hi, buddy.
What happened? What was that, Art?
So,
We almost got to indoctrinate him today.
so before we get started with site plans, just a reminder, we are still streaming online. We'll try to do everything up here if we can, but if we have to, we'll move down. All right, so what do you want to show, this first, or the application?
Show that first.
All right. I don't actually know how to say this.
Okay, so what Chris is going to display in a minute is
I might not. Oh, yeah, I can.
the process for what's called planned unit development, or PUD. This is the process the town is undertaking for the redevelopment of what's going to be called Amherst Central Park, which you may know as the former Westwood Country Club golf course. So the way that PUD works is that it gives the town the opportunity to master plan large swaths of land for redevelopment. This process applies to parcels of land that are greater than 30 acres in size. So you can imagine this would not apply to a lot of places around town. However, the Westwood Country Club site is greater than 30 acres, which initiates the plat process. So, basically what happens with a PUD is the zoning ordinance and site plan approval regulations are taken from the planning board and given to the town board as a legislative body. So, there are not traditional zoning standards like there would be for a general business district or a mixed-use district. They basically are in flux dependent on the formation of a master plan. That master plan is undertaken, compiled by a working committee within the town, presented to the planning board for a recommendation, and then ultimately to the town board for the legislative approval of a redevelopment plan for these sites. So this is kind of the overall process. Steps 1 through 4 and 5-ish are the preparation of the master plan and have taken place over the past however long time that we've got This application is on the planning board's agenda in a couple weeks in November for their recommendation. But again, there are, I don't want to say no zoning standards, but they are interchangeable based on how the master plan is shaped. So you guys, as part of our review process, are able to make recommendations on a conceptual master plan that will eventually make its way up to the town board for approval. So after tonight, your recommendation will go as input to the Amherst Central Park Committee, which will then revise the plans accordingly if they feel fit. That will go to the planning board for recommendation. Those recommendations, along with the continuing design of the project, will go to the town board, which will then offer their final approval, which will then warrant the director of facilities to prepare the final design for the park, and then oversee its implementation. So, Chris, if you could kind of flip to the concept plan. So it's going to be tough to see at first. It's a large site. The screens are oriented to landscape. But this is what you're working with. This is the former Westwood site for anybody who doesn't know. Sheridan Drive on the south. Frankhauser in, I remember the street that goes north. Frankhauser on the west. North Forest on the right. Fairways. Fairways. And ultimately Maple on the north. There's a little tooth that goes up to Maple. But right now, just the existing clubhouse and the golf course vacated. You zoom out, Chris.
Yes, it's hard to read.
Yep. So this is overall the conceptual master plan. Most of that's fine if you can't get it all the way. Okay. So most of the development is taking place in the south, towards Sheridan North Forest, which, you know, obviously you can see a concentration of development in the south. The north is mostly going to be permanent open space, passive recreation paths, meadows, ponds, really for passive recreation. There's a little tooth that goes up to Maple Road. Yep, so you can see most of it is existing cart paths. They'll be repurposed as walking trails. So that, you know, basically will be all left alone, maintained, but left alone. And then as you move south, it's into more of the park programming. You can see here, this is conceptual, so I don't want you to think this is like a final design for all these elements, but these are all the things that have been identified by the town as desires to be implemented within the park. So a ropes course, a couple playgrounds, there's outdoor exercise equipment that's becoming more popular in the planning community. You know, large forest, large program forest with a lot of natural areas surrounding. Continue south. Greenhouses with a community garden, pavilions, a new amphitheater, a repurposing of the clubhouse as a community building. You know, I'm sure everybody's heard of the Buffalo Niagara Heritage Village that is potentially relocating to this site. A brand new musical fair theater, a new winter market, an ice ribbon, outdoor activities. So really what this is trying to encompass is the future potential conceptual build out for this as Amherst Central Park is a staple community asset in Amherst. So as far as you guys are concerned, the existing drive on North Forest to be open two-way to gain entrance to the site, and then also this curb cut here, which aligns with Fenwick, correct? Which is also an entrance to the park. So that currently does not exist. That's right here. Those are the two access points, other than this to the northwest, which is just for bikes and peds. That comes in on Frankhauser. You can see it's labeled as with a gate. So that would be bike and ped access only. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. The planning director has asked for your recommendation as this moves forward.
So just looking at that, there's no motor vehicle access to Maple Road.
No.
Do you know where Sheridan is buried?
What's that?
Do you know where Sheridan is buried?
Do I know where Sheridan is buried? I'm not sure what I know what that means.
Like Old Man Sheridan, or General Sheridan, or Sheridan Drive? The berms along Sheridan Drive, those nice topsoil seated berms. Underneath that is concrete pavement chucks from Sheridan Drive. Gotta be careful digging through. Have a place to take.
The question was about why there's no connection, human connection to Maple.
The park doesn't really necessarily allow for one.
Well, I'm bringing, wait for Chris's answer to that.
Oh,
Connection to Maple.
It was mainly just to keep that north end passive and untouched natural. So they focused the majority of the development on the south end, did not think a connection at this stage would be necessary to Maple.
Okay, I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I have concern with the driveway, the concentration of parking that exists along North Forest. We reviewed this when it was the other proposal and the neighborhood opposition. There was one proposal that actually recommended turning that bend into a traffic circle rather than a driveway access. That intersection of Sheridan and North Forest is already a mess, accident prone. We're putting a driveway into a parking lot there. You can say anything we want to, that people are gonna use the other driveway to go out to Sheridan Drive. But if you don't have access to Maple Road, anybody coming from the north part of town or the northeast part of town is going to be coming on North Forest. They're gonna be going in and out of that exit. It's going to be a problem around that bend. It's already bad over there, not big enough, not tight enough. I don't like the driveway access to North Forest if there's no access on Maple Road.
So what's the alternative?
Something needs to be done with North Forest Road going into there. The prior petitioner in this property actually recommended a traffic circle at North Forest. The residents' driveways were gonna be there, but we have the room now because it's all town property. It's just,
The early concept plans for this also had that traffic circle, but they opted against it for whatever reason, I don't know.
it,
Why on Frankhauser is it only, is that an option or what was the?
So I would imagine that was to prevent traffic from entering that neighborhood.
there's been major, Kristen, when this has been come before the board before, when it was the old proposal. There's major residential opposition within that neighborhood on Frankhauser of access into the park because, again, no access to Maple on the property. That if there's an exit on Frankhauser, people exiting the park that want to go north are going to go through that neighborhood. So with this proposal the way it is, we're forcing the traffic to North Forest, which already has concerns on it. That becomes the main entrance for anybody on the northeastern part of town, going to North Forest out that driveway. The town, I believe, based on what we've seen on the other plans, is gonna have major residential opposition with that driveway there. With there's no other way to go north. I mean, if you have a car loop that's going up there, if there was a driveway that shot up through there somehow using that tooth for a driveway to Maple Road to get to the north, maybe that alleviates that problem, but you have no way to get people in and out of this park from the north.
Would it be possible to just put a parking lot on the north end that actually doesn't connect through to the south, so that if somebody wanted to just go walk the path, they could just park in that lot, get out and walk the path? You know, assuming they're not going explicitly to the pool or to.
You have a parking lot at the golf course.
Anybody from East Amherst coming to this park.
With the par 3.
Is the par 3 owned by the town?
Yes.
Yes. So that little lot right there, we own this whole thing. And the par 3 is staying as a par 3?
Yes.
And is there gonna be connection from the par 3, walking connection at least from the par 3 parking lot to the property, to the path in this property? Like to right there?
Not with a physical connection.
You guys can ask whatever you want.
Yeah, this again,
That's what the public's gonna do. They're gonna come and park in the golf course lot and walk over and get on the path. Might as well make that parking lot bigger.
Just like Eric recommended, you somehow not compromise the vision of that walking back an area, but somehow still make a vehicle access to get out onto Maple Road. It's to make a left out of that driveway is a nightmare onto North Forest.
I also, you don't even have pedestrian access to Maple Road using that tooth.
Yeah, I think at bare minimum, pedestrian access, literally just connect right down into that.
I mean, you have the bike path that's over on the other side. There's no connection of the bike path that's at North Forest, the UB bike trail that's over there, that's connected into Northtown Center. You have the baseball diamonds that are over there, so there's a lot of interconnectivity, other park property over there, but there's no interconnectivity from this park to the existing areas. I think there needs to be something going out to Maple Road for access, at least pedestrian or bike path. I mean, I'm assuming you're not putting a fence around there. I'm assuming that the black line that's there is not a fence, that's a property line. So even if you don't have a bike path there will probably be some kind of path created from people cutting through there eventually anyway, so.
I think that pathway system is not like a paved, it's a car path now, but weren't they just gonna try to keep that like a natural path? Is that? I believe so, yes. So, not a true bike path.
But you still want that.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Yeah, even a gravel path.
Even if it's a
connecting,
gravel path
that'd be
connecting out to
fine.
Maple Road.
So I need a consensus on the parking lot to the north.
I like putting a parking lot to the north with access to the park, pedestrian access, bike access to the park.
A different lot or
Can you-
different lot
A
that the one
different lot
exists?
in the little tooth there. Even if it's only for like 10 cars or something, and with maybe like a interpretive panel that has the overlay of the park so people know how to get where they're going and.
Or even or you could use the parking lot
Well, I'll tell
from
you,
the
way people
golf
use
course and
these
interconnect.
paths Nowadays, you say 10 cars, but my God, a place like this, I would.
Something.
More 10 people.
I can't tell the scale of the drawing. I don't know how many cars you could actually have there with the property setbacks. Right. Like a bike, yeah, like a trailhead.
It's a much smaller property. I mean, at least when I'm looking at it on aerial, it looks like a very small piece.
Yeah, it's like wedged between two houses and,
Yeah, again, I feel like if we propose that, the homeowners are going to complain about that, for sure, guaranteed.
Let's turn the tooth into a trailhead or a parking lot or something. It's right there, it's right off Maple Road.
will park, so there's some internal roadways on the southern end. Will parking be allowed on those roadways?
On these?
Like internal to the north of the, yeah, like that, and then up there, yeah, those roadways.
No, I don't think we're there yet.
Well, what is this? It's wider.
That's a road.
Yeah.
I would probably say no.
Where are you gonna, where's the picnic tables?
That's gotta be almost 200.
Because you might have people who want to park on the road.
You have a picnic, you wanna drive your car close to the hall or anything.
So can you scroll up, Chris? So these driveways go all the way up almost to,
Keep going up. It's a loop. There's no parking around the loop.
all the way up here.
So you can drive there.
What's the point of the drive?
Those are all vehicular
Small
access.
parking here.
You got a small parking lot there. You have all the trailheads that are over there, but you're not providing anybody parking access up at that area once they,
If they want to go to that playground, they gotta park in this small
yeah,
parking area and
small,
walk over there.
you've got no parking lot for the outdoor exercise equipment.
So can I just say, these are just general comments, additional parking internal to key.
Key features? Yes.
Yeah, a small lot for each feature. On the Maple Road end, I feel like a blend of the solution Jennifer suggested. Like, I like a pedestrian path connection in the notch, and then using the existing parking lot and connecting, like having another pedestrian trail that just wraps around, just like, maybe from, even if it just goes like right around here and just connects to right here.
What's that green that's next to the parking lot? Is that a practice green?
Just have a big sign that
If it
says
walked
watch for
around,
golf balls.
Went around the side, right here.
Is that a practice?
Like, it doesn't have to go over the whole thing.
Get rid of that and expand the parking.
Yeah.
I just feel like using this existing lot is probably better than, or yeah, even like, did you say expand the lot here?
Yeah, get rid of the practice green.
Yeah, and just expand the lot and then
Parking.
connect a little, just sneaking through the side right here to this.
Or you just bring in a new driveway, take off this ninth hole, and move the tee box, and, well, that might, no, take that back. I did it in Maple Road.
Must be better at golf than that. I used to play that par 3 all the time.
I actually hit it in the road on this one.
I just don't want to force a parking lot into the notch. That's my one concern.
Yeah, I think you'll have major residential opposition
Yeah,
to a
it's so
driveway there.
small there.
It's tight there.
It is pretty small, and you'll get resident opposition.
Yeah, I couldn't tell from the drawing the scale.
Expand and connect.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's much better. But definitely some sort of access from Maple to the amenities. Even if there's not a roadway all the way through, at least give people the option to access, bike ped. Yeah.
So we have that comment in there. We have the interconnect throughout the property. I still want to go back to that driveway.
Yeah, I like the roundabout.
Issues at the bend, you prefer a roundabout. Do we have consensus at that?
Yes.
Okay?
Or something like it.
Have that connection in the notch. I've got parking lot in the par 3 with connectivity, and I've got internal parking and key features internal.
So
Now, can I take my bike and go on all these trails?
Yeah.
The old golf cart trails and so forth.
Yeah.
Those, I don't know if will be paved.
That's all right.
It might be like stone
Mountain
dust
bikes.
eventually.
It's worth mentioning that we did hire a traffic engineer. I don't have the report with me. But currently, this intersection does not meet the traffic signal norms. Now, we're gonna have further discussions with
Because
DOT
they're all going
that,
on North Forest.
because it's failing quite a bit in this southbound direction.
because they're all using North Forest.
That's because it's probably so close to the other intersection there, right?
You shut down North Forest and you force them there.
Fairways or whatever the hell that is. What street is that?
Yeah, you're saying if you shut that down, you get the counts.
You get the counts up to justify the traffic signal.
And I just.
Have 2 remote points of access for fire.
Maple Road.
That would be a worse response.
Right. Frankhauser.
Yeah, I don't
Emergency
know
gated
why they
access.
didn't consider moving Frankhauser.
I mean, the Frankhauser people
No,
didn't even want.
they're getting elected next week. They
pedestrian
got 2 years till the
They
next
were
one.
against that.
Didn't they have Frank Hauser come into the site and actually go to your intersection here?
It was considered early on. I don't know if that was killed due to resident opposition, I'm not sure of the planning process.
I think it was part of the Simonelli plan.
Wasn't there a plan from the Simonelli plan or whoever to take North Forest straight and connect it at Fenwick? I think there was.
Connected where?
Take North Forest, make it a straight road instead of the bend.
How many site plans do we have after this?
Fenwick. Right, so you take a road straight through there, so the people driving North Forest, it takes the pressure off the
don't want
the X intersection.
residents.
And Sheridan and North Forest, because all the traffic then that's going to the 290 for North Forest is going through there.
I just think if the town is gonna spend this much time and effort and money in on things, make it as accessible as possible without putting stress on the surrounding neighborhoods.
Where does Fenwick connect to?
It's just all in the subdivision, and it gets,
It's a complete maze. It's one of the most mazy subdivisions in town. to be
my
honest.
mother-in-law used to live in there, and it's all blocked by the 290.
You go in here and you gotta make it out to Park Club.
It is a maze through there.
There's no, like,
I don't think-
unless
I
you
don't
know
think-
the neighborhood, there's no way you
I
can
don't
cut
think,
through
I
there.
don't think that neighborhood would be approved by today's standards for fire code.
And we should, this is where we have the stop sign, right? Remove this, or we have changed.
Yeah, that one we made it.
Well, and up to the left, like,
Oh, yeah.
like, a little bit more to the left. I think it was that, right there, yeah.
I think we did both these.
Yeah, we got in trouble for one of them, right?
Yeah. Okay. Do we have any other comments on the park?
One other comment. I would like to see a signalized intersection there.
That needs to be,
Strong.
that needs to be a signalized intersection, but DOT is only gonna put it in if it's warranted.
Guys, if we could try to focus our comments here, I'm trying to write this down. So, I mean, you got a proposition for, they want, somebody said they want a signalized intersection. Agree on that?
Signalized intersection at
I
Sheridan Drive
recuse
and
from
Fenwick.
that.
Oh.
Sheridan Drive, Fenwick, and Park entrance has to be a signalized intersection. Yeah, we need some kind of control there.
So we're all in favor of
Yes.
signalized, okay.
Minus Jennifer.
Okay, what else? Let's get some
Just
consensus.
one last thing on the small parking areas up in that loop. The one thing I think we might want to consider instead of individual parking areas, or we can have some small parking areas, but I think parallel parking along that loop would be worthwhile as well. That way people could, I don't know, I think some parallel parking along there, as long as it's like wide enough and there are dedicated spaces, I think would be worthwhile. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, especially if they're struggling to put in smaller lots. You know, it seemed like they were reluctant to put in lots by that playground, you know, or.
Yeah,
Yeah, parallel parking, right? Like you.
and you can park where you want to park.
And I think personally, if you did that, what you want to do is have like some like sort of like curb cut, like bump outs or something. So like, so people could, it's like, all right, a bay of 5 parallel parking cars, a bump out with a tree or whatever.
What's that future community at the bottom there, Chris, right above search? Future community garden?
Probably like a rose garden,
Community garden?
No, like the vegetable garden.
vegetable garden.
So, are they looking for big picture comments from this board? Is that what's?
Yeah.
Do we have enough? What are those gates? Those are just to close it down at different times of year?
It's on the website. Is it? Yeah. So if you go to pending developments, it's one of the applications.
I have a 11 by 17 if you want it behind it.
Okay. Do we have any others on this? Because I know we have other site plans to talk about, and we're pushing time. Any other comments? At this point, I'm sure we're going to see this many, many more times.
They can actually read it.
Oh, we will.
You don't think, you're not confident we're gonna see that again?
I don't know. I don't know.
Wheel gets the grease.
So it's not following what he was mentioning before. It's up to the town board. It's not going to the planning board process.
They
where
don't,
you
they're
would
not
get
gonna
site
take your
plan.
comments and say, okay, let's check them off and bring it back to you to see if we satiated you. They may take your advice.
They may not.
They may tell you to shove it, but.
They'll tell us to shove it.
It's all in town board's hands, so.
Yep.
Where is the sledding hill?
We're traffic safety.
Oh,
There's
so
that-
there's,
You can talk about that after the meeting.
That's not traffic related. It's an amenity of the park.
A little more time and I'm not as tired. Can I tell you?
Sled's not traffic device.
White Hill.
Okay.
What's the next one?
Maple and Air. Oh, that's that big. the Bliss development.
Maple and what?
720, 740, 760 Maple.
Better known as Maple here.
We've looked at this one already, haven't we?
Yes, you should have already seen this.
We looked at this one last month.
This is the mixed-use project at Maple and Air.
We had stuff going back to them, so they're responding back to us.
Yeah, did they give us the pet heads at Maple?
Yeah, can we dig in there and see if they have a response letter? Oh, that's what it was. Thank you. Gregory. Well, that's why I wanted you guys to see this. They either kicked the can or please hold. Sit. I'm pretty sure they just kicked it down. Like,
Oh, okay.
Okay, anticipated that the proposed mixed-use project will add pedestrian trips to a nearby intersection. Well, it's got a typo. This crosswalk does not have a walk ahead. Countdown signal as such, developers to install pedestrian signal heads and pedestrian push buttons on all corners of nearby neighborhood. That's what you guys said?
Yep.
They responded, the applicant is open to discussing possible pedestrian enhancements at the intersection of Maple and Air.
So, what does that mean?
So that
do
means
it?
they're not gonna do it if it's not required of them.
How do we require it?
Good question.
Like Maple.
Because it's a county road, isn't it?
Yes.
It's our signal.
So, you could offer that as a condition of planning board approval,
Yeah, we want to do that.
Yes.
that
Yes. Condition of planning board approval. Installation of pet heads.
Worst comes to worst, they try to sue us to not put it in.
I want to say this already went to the planning board.
That means it's town.
Yeah.
Do we have any other comments?
It was just about that. That was the only.
Is that the only one?
That's the only one, however, I think this was on the October planning board agenda when got approved. So, you can,
It's November.
November.
So what got approved on the pet heads? We'll talk about it, or?
Talk about it.
Sounds like nothing.
however, it sounds like they're still willing to do some improvements, so.
Yeah, we'll have a planning board resolution saying continue.
We don't have a stick.
Yeah.
Town board,
But
continue that conversation?
It is.
I know, but can they ask them? Can somebody
Can you go
try
back to
to
the
ask
website,
them?
Chris? Just go back, just hit the back button. Yeah, see,
Go to the,
The agenda item.
The agenda item was already on the
so
meeting.
that's gonna give you the minutes.
But it is,
Wait.
it's Bliss Construction, right?
Correct.
They've been pretty
So
receptive.
there you go,
to-
signed resolution. 1019.
Go-
You
go-
can see what's in there, probably says, 6 feet to
he
comments
didn't
and
open
traffic
the most
safety
current
board
lines.
meeting. October, whatever,
Chris is done.
You're done. You're cut off.
There you go. So there's your
Oh,
teeth.
there it is.
All right.
So
All right.
we're not satisfied.
We're not
There you go.
satisfied.
So they have to satisfy that condition, which is this board's approval.
So would I send my comment to you guys still?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll say in accordance with site plan resolution, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so also what you'll see is that this here, condition 8, that they have to submit a minor site plan for the parcel at 1800 Maple Road, which is the one on the corner, to reflect the changes to the use area. That's the parcel in which it's directly adjacent to those two intersections. So we want to open up a can of worms on that one too. Go for it.
Let's remember that. Can you remind us when that
Yep.
comes?
Yep.
Can you, Chris, can you hit back to the website? So the updated plan set is the last bullet.
Yes.
I think you opened a
That's
different
the-
bullet.
That's the most recent plan set that we have.
But if we only commented on the pet head, I guess that doesn't matter anymore.
over on the left, that looks different, right? Or did we? No, maybe.
No, we overall like this one.
on the west. We liked that one.
Yeah, we didn't have a
I
problem
thought there
with
was
it.
something with that entrance on the left-hand side. Yeah.
So this was required to be parallel parking, and they went to the zoning board of appeals for relief in order to solve perpendicular stalls.
And they were granted that.
Correct.
Okay, I got my marching orders on that one.
Okay. Next.
What else?
2495 Worley. Major site plan for a self-storage facility. From the drawings, Chris, you can just press back. And go over to the open the drawing. Nope.
Oh, man. See you later. Whirly?
Whirly, scroll down. 2495. There you go.
Okay.
2495.
So it's a self-storage facility on Worley. These are pretty basic when it comes to traffic. Right? They provide minimal parking for people that are there cleaning their units or they're servicing their units. And then they basically provide access around the whole site for people to pull in and out and unload their vehicles.
Where are we on the globe?
We are right past Napa, heading towards Transit. It's on the driveway into Brady Corporation.
What was that? What was
I know
that
exactly
cross
where
street?
it is.
Can't read the name of the cross street.
He's getting there.
I couldn't read it.
So it's this parcel right here.
So it is a
You
current.
see this once before?
Maybe for a different plan. This property has bounced around a bit.
Yeah.
So possibly for something different, not since I've been here, so.
Truck garage.
A truck car wash or something was supposed to go on the other side of that driveway between Napa looping around there.
There's really that much to comment on.
Truck car wash is off.
Oh, there's the throughway.
It's off Lawrenceville.
Is that the Transit Road exit there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Well, the deer,
So-
you have to run this
What are we
by the
looking at?
deer.
Is this a zoning or
Nope, this is site plan.
what are they?
They're
There's no,
basically putting in a driveway,
a driveway
Yeah.
and a parking lot?
Yep.
small
Dining
parking
car.
lot.
Couple cars. That doesn't mean.
Climate controlled storage.
Where's the building? That's the whole building?
Yeah.
This whole thing.
There looks like it's pavement all around
It's
the
all
site.
pavement.
That whole surrounding part is paved.
How tall is the building? No, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of how.
Probably is some, there probably is some.
Is there-
renderings. Go back,
Well,
Chris.
no, what I'm looking at here is how tall are the driveways, the garage doors? And stuff to get into the building? Because are you storing? So it's, what I'm looking for is there boat storage, RV storage, indoor, where there'd be a large door where there was anything with a trailer pulling into the building? But it looks like it's all,
Looks like no, so.
No.
The reason now I understand, the reason there's pavement all around is because these are each outside.
outside units. So they're regular standard garage doors. It's not a commercial door for indoor RV.
Open up the garage
You need
door.
a spot for like your U-Haul.
Right.
Or if you're on Swing TV, you can go bid on one.
Exactly.
And then you get to, smash a lock with a sledgehammer.
So, I mean, it's really doesn't involve us.
No, it's fine.
Well hidden.
Coming off of a private drive.
Like if they had pedestrian access from the street to the building.
Yeah.
All garage doors, the drive-in RV or something of that nature. Anything of that nature.
Right.
They don't have
So
those.
usually these things are gated and fenced. Is that the case here?
It doesn't look like it.
It's all indoor.
nice looking building.
Don't want to replace that roof in 20 years.
All right. What else?
The only thing in your box was the traffic assessment for 1350 Edgar. That was requested by the town
Oh,
board.
yeah. Yeah, we should talk about that.
So if you remember, this was rezoning at 1350 Edgar for
13.
16 unit residential for the teens. The residents are adamantly opposed, and thus requested a traffic assessment for the perceived increase in traffic onto Egert Road and on the project site. That was prepared by Passero, and I think I can save you the time and say that nothing really conclusive came back from the assessment.
Yeah, so here's the, where they're gonna build the apartments.
We have parking?
They're gonna go park on Maynard.
I'm just wondering if they're going to go park on Maynard.
So there's barely any trips. I don't know if there's like 8.
Right turn for the site, projected volume is 10.
Spectrum right there.
So
Is that publicly available?
This should be online on the 10th.
Parking lot there instead? Apartments?
I think the residents would hate that even more because the impervious surface.
They're against the runoff that they're. Yeah, the residents are mainly concerned about the stormwater runoff from the impervious surface down the little, like down that little staircase.
And the sledding hill.
Send you a copy of this.
It's not online.
No, it should be.
Do you want me to email you to remind you?
Yes, please.
Yeah, this is the escarpment, so when it really pours, the rain, they've got a video of it. It comes down, cascades down the stairs, goes into the street.
That's by design, though.
Maybe storm drains.
Yeah, our point is,
We'll improve it.
probably, we'll probably improve it by containing it and putting it in storm sewer. But in terms of traffic, it doesn't generate a lot, except utilizing the existing driveway.
And we'll see the site plan when it.
Yes.
It's not connecting to Maynard Alley, correct?
No.
Okay.
Head only.
But the, yes, yeah.
There's an existing pedestrian connection.
Yes, yes.
So what is that building there at 13?
That's existing.
They-
units.
Apartments
Used used to be a school once upon a time.
There's one commercial space on the ground story closest to Spectrum Building. Since it has been rezoned, they are now allowed to convert that into a residential unit.
They're going to have 3 units there, right?
Yes.
Even enough parking?
Yes.
But that's for the Sacred Heart can use a
Spectrum?
couple
Yeah,
park,
that's
no.
enough parking.
Spectrum has enough parking? I'm just saying, can the school get a couple parking lots there, use the little walkway down Maynard Alley and access the back of the property?
Yeah, we gotta be careful where you put parking restrictions to push the problem.
Just gonna push it.
Yeah. And the residents on Crosby.
Motion to adjourn?
Are we done? Any more site plans?
I got nothing.